Chapter 1380. Bo-jio lifted the corners of her lips. Hoshino, thank you. Such words could only be understood by companions who had the most tacit understanding with each other. Hoshino smiled, his words filled with a hint of blackness. I really want to know Qin Mo's expression now. Lin Feng wanted to shout at the side. You aren't the only one who wants to know, I want to know too. But I don't dare to look. What a hero. Since you dare to hug little Spade, Almighty Hoshino, I, Lin Feng, respect you for being a man. Thinking of this, Lin Feng stealthily shifted his gaze. As expected, the smile on the captain's face was cold. His face didn't turn black, but anyone who saw his devilish smile would feel a chill down their spine. Lin Feng was afraid that his captain wouldn't be able to control himself and would kick him. After all, regardless of whether it was in the game or in real life, their captain's fighting ability was something no one dared to challenge. The entire Supreme Alliance seemed to be able to imagine the scene of a huge vinegar jar falling to the ground. Surprisingly, Qin Mo didn't stop them. After the two of them hugged, he reached out to hold her wrist. When he brushed past her, he threw a sentence at Hoshino. You won't have another chance. Regardless of what it was. Hoshino thought about Qin Mo's reaction. The only sentence he didn't think about was this. It was a little heart-wrenching. But it was probably because he didn't want to be that person right from the start. That was why he felt that it was fine. Qin Mo didn't care about other people's opinions. But he respected her completely. That was Z, the young lord of the hacker world who had saved him from the whirlpool. How did she make it here? He knew it better than anyone else. This was probably the only thing he wanted. Hoshino turned, his gaze landing on Qin Mo's back view. The moment the thought came into his mind, he heard a voice. Are you still watching? Aren't you leaving? It was Yu Cixin. He was smiling, but there wasn't any warmth in his eyes. He wasn't in a good mood. Why was he hugging someone who had won? Yu Cixin pursed his lips, walking in the opposite direction. The audience couldn't see the invisible surge. The only thing that could be seen was the hug that he did not expect. The crowd exploded. He hugged. My almighty Hoshino is so strong. He is not afraid at all. I'll bet 100 yuan that almighty Qin will definitely get it back from Big Spade at this hour. I'll add 100. I've been a fan of almighty Qin for so long, I know him better than anyone else. Do you still remember the photo of Lin Feng trying to win Big Spade's heart? I used to be naive and didn't understand the subtleties, but now, I'm completely jealous. Almighty Qin will definitely say, come, let's have a good talk. Ah, just thinking about it makes me want to have a nosebleed. How cute. I didn't expect there to be so many hidden sweets to eat. Watching the interaction between the two, the CP fans' hearts were about to explode. The competition was good, and after the competition, it would be even better. The ticket was worth it. Coincidentally, Qin Mo turned to the left and said something to the youngster. Both of them were dressed in Supreme Alliance's uniform, their figures tall and handsome. This scene revealed a sweetness that she had never experienced before. Many fans couldn't help but take out their phones to take photos. They looked at it every day and felt sweet in their hearts. Chapter 1381. Qin Mo asked, how do you intend to explain your cheating incident tonight? Bo-jio choked. Brother Mo, isn't your definition of cheating a little too hasty? You're not allowed to have any opinions. Qin Mo tugged her, domineering and childish. As expected, he was jealous. Bo-jio couldn't help but laugh. When Qin Mo saw this, he held her hand and squeezed it, signaling her to behave. The interaction was too subtle, but it didn't pass the fans' eyes. But before they could see enough, on the other side, the Asian Organizing Committee walked out. According to international practice, the winning team would stand on the highest podium. But in reality, it wasn't important. The most important thing was that at this moment, the flag of China was flying in the sky. It was the color of blazing flames. The 11 of them lined up in a row. At this moment, they looked more like youngsters who had grown up on this land, singing the same song. Every man had a long-cherished wish in his heart. They could either be a soldier and protect their country, or he could appear on the international stage and let everyone in the world see the national flag that was raised in their eyes. Because this was the only way to win more respect. This was their original intention. It hadn't changed over the years. Regardless of what they had encountered, the magical thing was, when you see the flag rising, your insides will become hot and soft. Regardless of what they had encountered, they would only feel glory at this moment. Even if this profession wasn't understood, it wasn't important anymore. It was just as the introduction said. They had once fallen into a bottomless abyss. Now, they were determined to make a comeback and establish themselves as kings. The 11 of them appeared on 32 mainstream media outlets, 64 live streaming platforms, and even foreign magazines. Of course, Bo Jio and Chi Nimo took up the most space. But no one knew. At this moment, the bunch of people who had just received their awards didn't have time to browse through Weibo, magazines, or media outlets. They had wanted to celebrate. They reached Yin Wuyao's internet cafe. They didn't know when this group of people started to like to gather on the second floor. It was probably because the sound of the keyboard felt real. It's an occupational hazard that makes me speechless. Lin Feng's self-evaluation was accurate. But it didn't affect them at all. Feng Yi knew that they needed a breather. Other than the interview on the national channel, he avoided everything else. He ordered a lot of food and drinks and brought his assistant upstairs. But when he really went up to the second floor, he found that no one in the group was awake. He didn't drink. He just sat there and fell asleep. Everyone was very intimate. Coco and Feng Shang's heads were touching, and their bunnies were hanging on the ground. Perhaps it would be difficult for outsiders to understand. But as Feng Yi's assistant, he wasn't surprised at all when he saw this scene. Because she knew. This group of people was too tired. Any industry related to the internet was different from other ordinary industries. The pressure was great. Another public figure. He had to pay attention to his every word and action. Even if it was ordinary words, they would be misinterpreted by others into another meaning. Some people thought that they liked her, but it had already made them breathless. Insomnia is the norm. Many times. Feng Yi was even more afraid that someone among them would have psychological problems. Chapter 1382. Feng Yi glanced at the few of them and lifted his chin towards the little assistant. The little assistant understood and immediately placed the things on the table. She raised her hand and adjusted the temperature of the air conditioner to the best. The weather in the north was especially cold at this time of the year. No one knew when it started snowing outside. Feng Yi glanced at the calendar hanging on the wall. He hadn't expected the new year to pass so quickly. Both Little Spade and Uncle Ian had been here for a long time. Since the competition was over, it was time to find something for them to do. At the very least, he had to be the face of Supreme Alliance so that he could lure the newcomers in. After all, he was a businessman. The corners of Feng Yi's mouth curled up. He was back to being the smiling fox manager Feng. The little assistant shivered at the side. She felt as though her days of working overtime were coming back. Even so, when they left, they closed the door carefully. But Chi Nimo had already woken up when the door was pushed open. He had been too lazy to get up since he was carrying someone in his arms. As for who he was carrying, there wasn't a need to elaborate, everyone knew. But very quickly, he kissed the person in his arms awake, his breath by her ear. His voice was calm. "Are you pretending to be asleep because you're worried I'll settle the score with you?" Bo Jio trembled from the kiss, opening her eyes. "Brother Emo, let's not talk about such an unfriendly topic when everyone is asleep." "Tell me, what topic is friendly?" Chin Emo smiled, reaching out to push her hair to the side. His long legs were wrapped around her long hair. They could lie down horizontally, but Chin Emo was too tall, so he had to lean sideways. Bo Jio's arms were still around his waist. No one knew how comfortable it was to hug the Almighty to sleep, hence, she had taken advantage of him when no one was paying attention. But now, it seemed like this position was disadvantageous to her. But long before she came, she had thought of a strategy. "For example, let's talk about the other reward you promised me." The two of them always seemed to fall in love in a different way than others. Chi Nimo glanced at the person who was raising her eyebrows at him. He reached out and pinched her face. Keep your claws. If you want a reward, get it. Don't do anything bad. Bo Gio watched regretfully as he pulled her hand out of his uniform. The Almighty was always so prideful. As his girlfriend, she couldn't even touch his abs. Without any bad things to do, Bo Gio could only lie there lazily. She looked like a hedonistic young master raised by a family, but she was a little listless. You look like you're not interested in the reward I'm giving you? Chin Mo pinched the face again. Bo Gio replied seriously, I don't show my emotions on my face. She was afraid of digging up her dark history. Not bad, you are very calm, Chin Mo said slowly. Bo Gio found the Almighty's attitude strange. After all, no matter how she looked at it, it didn't seem like he was going to give her a reward. Instead, it seemed like he was trying to trick her. Chin Mo suddenly said, Wait a minute. Bo Gio was confused. What? Chin Mo stood up from the sofa, standing sideways. Just this alone made him look suave. It's not here, it's in the pocket of my jacket. Bo Gio paused, her hair sticking up as she stood up. Her handsome face looked a little cute. Was there really a reward? It wasn't a dark history. Chapter 1383. Chin Mo knew that someone would be curious. His lips curved upwards as he allowed her to follow him casually. Bo Gio wasn't afraid since it wasn't her dark history. Chin Mo swept her a glance, his smile deepening. He held onto his jacket, his long legs leaning against the wall as he hooked his fingers in Bo Gio's direction. Bo Gio walked over. What is it? Chin Mo lifted his chin, gesturing for her to reach into his pocket. For her to take it herself? Her interest was piqued. She reached her hand in. The moment she saw it, her ears drooped. It was the photo that had been placed in the villa. She knew she had a boyfriend like the Almighty. She couldn't rely on him to give her a diamond ring. The Almighty's favorite thing to do was to dig up her dark history. She would have to find time to ask her fans in the future. What should she do if her boyfriend had a special interest? I'm waiting online. It's urgent. Even though it was fun to watch the Almighty speak viciously about his childhood because of jealousy, it wasn't good. However, it wouldn't be good if he recovered his memory. What would they do then? That would be another dark history. Bo Gio made up her mind. Before the Almighty regained his memory, she would explain everything clearly. Chin Mo saw that she didn't take the photo out and had a helpless expression on her face. He suddenly pulled her over and lightly touched her face with one hand. Are you an idiot? Take it out and flip it. What else could there be in a photo? She couldn't flip it and turn it into a ring. Bo Gio paused, her gaze landing on the back of the photo. There was a line of beautiful black letters. It wasn't long, just 7 words. You are the joy of youth. You should know what it means when you read it backwards. Chin Mo lowered his lids, the lights falling. The night sky outside the window seemed to have become a foil for him. In that instant, it was as though all that was left in her ears was a flowing voice. It wasn't loud or soft, but it was full of substance. The youngster I like is you. It wasn't an ordinary confession. Otherwise, it wouldn't have appeared at the back of the photo. Bo Gio tightened her grip on Chin Mo's sleeves, the thought rushing through her mind. Chin Mo smiled, planting a kiss on her forehead. It's me. That one word explained everything. The Almighty had regained his memory. All of his memories. Bo Gio didn't know how to describe her feelings. Her mind was blank. She reached out and hugged him without a word. This time he really was hers. From the inside out. Completely and utterly. After the joy, there was a muffled voice. You didn't even reply to the letters I wrote to you. Chin Mo tucked her hair behind her ears. It's my fault. At that time, I sent them every day, and I even wrote a lot of wrong words. Grandfather Butler laughed at me for a long time. Chin Mo sighed. That's why you wrote the letter. Why would a small hacker write a letter? Bo Gio felt that she had been too immature back then. The television series caused me trouble. They say that letters can make people feel sincere. Now that I think about it, emails are the most reliable. At least when you read it, it will appear as read. Even if you didn't look at it, I know you didn't receive it. MH, you aren't that stupid. Chin Mo couldn't hold back his smile as he listened to her soft complaints. Bojio paused. Wait a minute, this wasn't the right topic. She was the one who mocked the Almighty. Chapter 1384. How did it feel to have such an intelligent and vicious boyfriend? Kiss him until he stopped talking. That was what Bojio did. She reached out and pressed onto Chin Mo's back, her lips lifting slightly as she leaned forward. Chin Mo hadn't expected this kiss. It was obviously a sudden kiss. But very quickly, he regained control of the situation. He pushed her away, his forehead pressing against hers. I have something for you. There was more? Bojio arched a brow. Chin Mo threw something over. A dark red household register? Bojio didn't have the chance to speak. Just then, the voice beside her ear rang again. I didn't say that I was going to give you me, this is the real thing. Bojio glanced up. How did you take out your household register? It should be more complicated to be in the military. Is it that difficult to leave it to your mother-in-law? Chin Mo kissed her eyes casually. Bojio coughed uncomfortably, her ears turning slightly red. Why did the Almighty say mother-in-law so naturally? But with the Almighty's household register, she could really tie him down. A domineering Seo would always take the household register of his sweetheart. From a certain point of view, it suited her. Of course, if the Almighty hadn't said anything else, the world would have been a better place. So, should we go home and have a good chat about your cheating during the competition? Bojio. She had indeed underestimated the Almighty's ability to hold a grudge. The result of the chat. It was after they returned home. He carried her onto the sofa and coaxed her to say many embarrassing things. She didn't last long under the intoxicating force. His heavy breathing and his handsome face, which was covered in a thin layer of sweat, made it hard for anyone to reject him, be it a man or a woman. Bojio wasn't sure when they had ended. She could only hear his pulse and heartbeat slowing down. Before the numbness in her body faded, he carried her again. The temperature in the room rose once more. She could hear the sound of water splashing on the floor. The mist, mixed with the sound, drifted over from her shapely lips. He was probably afraid someone would hear it. Bojio bit down on the sound instinctively. He chuckled lightly. Do you think the servants are still here? There's only us here. Bojio trembled. Slow down. But he didn't know that such a voice would make people even more uncontrollable. Chin Mo thought she would never know how beautiful she was, because her skin was too white and delicate. So every time, a thin layer of powder would appear on her body. Moreover, her face was always so hedonistic, with her hair sticking to the back of her ears. Especially when her clothes were wet, it would only make people want her even more. Suddenly, hot kisses fell on his body like flower petals. Bojio closed her eyes, enduring the pain. Good girl. The man's voice was deep, and when he disappeared into the night, he seemed even more sexy and seductive. When it was close to dawn, she realized that his hand was under her pajamas again. Bojio said, tired. His kiss landed beside her ear. Be good, apply the medicine. It's good for your body. Medicine? Bojio didn't have time to think about it. All he could feel was that person's gentle movements and the medicinal fragrance in his breath. Chin Mo was indeed holding medicine, specially prepared by someone. Such a prescription was rare. He had to find an old Chinese doctor who used precious medicinal herbs gathered from the Qinghai Tibet line. It was indeed good for girls and could nourish their bodies. But it wasn't easy to get the medicine. The Chinese doctor had a strange temper. He couldn't get it even if he had money. Chin Mo had specially asked for it after he had quarreled with a certain someone about the medicine. The old Chinese doctor had thought that this young master must have done something evil, which was why he wanted to use this medicine to treat his injuries. After a few times, the old Chinese doctor then realized that this person was too affectionate and was afraid that he would hurt his lover, which was why he wanted the medicine. According to him, my lover is a little small. At the start, the old Chinese doctor blew his beard. A little small, how small? The main point was that this young master wasn't that old. Chin Mo chuckled lightly. She's an adult, she's going to university this year. That's good. The old Chinese doctor finally agreed to give him the medicine. But in the end, because Qin Mo was too good at chess, he would always win a game against the old man. He really couldn't find an excuse. However, the old Chinese medicine doctor could tell that this man really cared about his little girlfriend. For successful people like them, many people said that money was important, but to them, time was the most important. But no matter how he tried to find an excuse to delay, Qin Mo was patient and even personally checked every medicinal herb. This kind of cooking could only be done by a person who was in so much pain that it penetrated into their bones. The old Chinese doctor thought that if Qin Mo brought his girlfriend over the next time, he would definitely tell the girl to cherish him. There weren't many good guys these days. Indeed, there weren't many. Because honestly speaking, there weren't many boyfriends who helped their girlfriends dress. Bo Jio stretched her back lazily, her hair messy. Her voice was low and hoarse, as if she had just woken up. She had a natural arrogance, but because of her perfect voice, it wasn't annoying. Water. Put on your clothes first, there will be water. Qin Mo had long legs, he only needed to bend slightly when he spoke. His voice was close to her ear, deep and magnetic, like a feather that brushed past her heart. She couldn't help but admire him, his words made her soften. All right, put on your clothes first. Cuffs. In the end, Almighty Qin couldn't take it anymore and took action himself. Bo Jio was well versed in being served. The moment the Almighty opened his mouth, she handed her wrist over. Take the Almighty's clothes for example. No matter how she dressed, he would always think of her as a little ruffian. He had been like that when they had been young. The two of them had completely different styles. She belonged to the free-spirited group. He was so spotless, it made one suspect that he didn't have any childhood fun. But the Almighty didn't let down the name of a beast in human clothing. Bo Jio glanced at the man in the white shirt, looking elegant and aloof. Even his slender fingers were so beautiful they seemed to glow. Who would have expected someone with such an aura to be more ferocious in bed? Chapter 1385. That reminded her of the scene in the bathroom the night before. Especially the words he had said to coax her. Bo Jio's ears flushed. She broke into a playboy smile and pressed her lips against his ear. She wanted to take it back. Unexpectedly, before she could move her lips, his breath settled. His eyes dimmed. How many times have I told you to stop teasing me? Bo Jio instinctively sensed danger and was about to retreat. However, he pressed her back onto the soft double bed in an instant. Even the clothes that he had just put on were ripped apart by him. She heard the sound of buttons falling to the floor. What followed was his aura gradually becoming heavier. But in the end, he didn't do anything to her. Bo Jio couldn't take it anymore. He buried his face into her neck, his voice so sexy it sent shivers down her spine. Are you trying to kill me, Emch? Bo Jio didn't move anymore. The heat from his body was a clear indication of how firm he was. If I wasn't worried your body wouldn't be able to take it, do you think I would be so tolerant? He opened his mouth and bit her neck. Bo Jio trembled. She hugged the person on top of her. Her blurry memories started to clear up. The Almighty had indeed applied medicine on her, and it was in that place. Bo Jio blushed. She was completely obedient. She decided to take advantage of him like this. But this was the downside of being familiar with each other. In the past, it had been easy for her to tease the Almighty. Now, he wouldn't let her kiss him even if she teased him a little. If she teased him more harshly, he would hug her directly. In the end, she would be the one with a sore back. Gradually, the dryness in her body dissipated. That was when Bo Jio realized that this position was indeed good for her. After all, it was rare to see the Almighty so dependent in someone's arms. She couldn't do anything about it. Her boyfriend had the heart of a princess. Bo Jio smiled, reaching out to touch his hair. Be obedient. Those 3 words were very light. He reached out and pulled her up by the wrist. Just like that, he carried her to the wardrobe. Bo Jio's legs were long and fair, giving off a messy sense of beauty. She was a good woman. She wasn't even close. There was no immortal chi on his body either. On the contrary, she was extremely beautiful. Even his eyes were filled with black mist. It was completely different from Qin Mo's aura. Someone once said that Almighty Qin definitely liked those kind of pure and gentle women. After all, these people all had immortal qi on them. If they saw this scene, they would definitely be shocked. What Almighty Qin liked were long, narrow eyes, a mole with tears, long, snow-white legs, and a natural charm. All of these could not be compared to one word, her. Is he liked her? With this in mind, Qinemo lowered his head and kissed a certain someone. Bo Jio wasn't bothered, her fingers brushing past the clothes hanging on it. He had probably brought her over so that she could choose for herself. Who knew that the Almighty didn't mean it that way? He picked a sweater and put it on her head. It's warm. Bo Jio had always prioritized her looks. Brother Mo, I'm not handsome anymore. C. Wait a minute, what are you doing to my hair? After nearly 10 minutes of torment. After being dressed as a bear, Bo Jio finally regained her freedom. But before she could take 2 steps, he arched a brow. Little Bo Jio. Bo Jio tilted her head, her pure black down jacket and red checkered scarf accentuating her handsome face. She had the aura of a manga character. Imich? Since you have a boyfriend, shouldn't you do some actions? Qin was still wearing a long trench coat today, his aura naturally elegant and noble. Even his words carried a hint of indifference. Bo Jio glanced down at his empty right hand. Oh, he replied and walked over. Brother Mo, Bo Jio spoke slowly. Next time, if you want to hold hands, just say so. Little Princess Qin was still as arrogant as ever. She didn't wait for Qin to raise his brow and tugged his hand over. I'm hungry, Madame Zhang isn't around and it's affecting my growth. Is your boyfriend just for show? Qin glanced over. Bo Jio replied matter-of-factly, then cook for me. She was hoping that the Almighty would say no so that she could show off her instant noodle cooking skills in front of the Almighty. With such a cool skill, if she didn't show it off, it wouldn't be in line with her life goals. Let's go to the cafeteria. Today, there's your favorite beef and bean buns. They're fresh out of the oven. There was a canteen in the military compound. Yesterday, they stayed at the Qin family's main residence. He could indeed go to the cafeteria to eat. Bo Jio's stomach growled when she heard the words beef and bean bun. It was a natural reaction. Those who had never eaten here probably didn't understand how delicious the food in the courtyard was. Because there were many old leaders living here. Therefore, they followed the rules of the older generation. The fermented flour had to be fermented overnight. The beef was the freshest. After it was properly mixed, the scallions, ginger, garlic, and pepper oil were poured over it, and the piercing aroma would come out. Not to mention, there were also scalded long beans as supplementary ingredients. After mixing them well, they were placed on a hot steamer and steamed in a traditional steamer for half an hour. When it was taken out of the pot, the skin was thin and the stuffing was big. When he bit into it, his mouth was filled with fragrance. It was just that the younger generation in the military compound had all gone to the army. They rarely ate in the cafeteria. Previously, after staying at the Qin family's main residence, Bo Jio couldn't forget Madame Zhang's food. Secondly, she missed the meat buns in the cafeteria. Now, she was finally back. With delicious food in front of her, Bo Jio temporarily cast aside the thought of showing off her skills. She just wanted the Almighty to leave quickly. After all, if he was late, he might not be able to eat it. Bo Jio didn't know that long before she woke up, Qin had called the chef at the cafeteria and asked him to make an extra basket of meat buns. As for why he was walking so slowly, of course, there was a reason. Very quickly, Bo Jio felt that something was amiss. The old men who had seen her previously walked out with their adjutant. Their voices were loud and clear. Little Qin, you brought your little friend over for dinner again? It's not a little friend today, Qin replied, pressing her head onto his shoulder, his smile gentle. It's my girlfriend. Bo Jio was caught off guard. That was her expression. The old men inhaled sharply. Hadn't she been his little brother in the past? How did she become his girlfriend now? Almighty Qin gave a good explanation slowly. In the past, she was shy and didn't want to admit our relationship so quickly. Now that we're close, It should be fine after I tell the grandpas. This was the first time the old men had made a mistake. They started to crowd around Bojio. You're so mean. The little friend has become his girlfriend. No wonder your brother has to find a partner. Gio, just say it, when are you going to let us attend the wedding? Listen to your boyfriend, understand? Little Chin might seem cold, but he treats people well. In the future, if little Chin insults me, you have to reprimand him. As a girlfriend, I have to control my boyfriend. That's right. The direction of the conversation was getting more and more out of hand. Chin Mo arched a brow. This was probably the only time Almighty Chin hadn't expected this outcome. Bojio was elated, holding on to her little Princess Chin's hand, full of aggression. Grandpas, don't worry, after the meal, when we get home, I'll control him. How can he insult others so easily? Chin insults, Chin tricks. She couldn't be blamed. The Almighty had a venomous tongue. That was why people loved and hated him so much. Along the way, Bojio was smiling. Chin Mo smirked, not saying a word, the corners of his lips lifting slightly. This idiot, didn't she realize what she had just said? Words like that would only be said after marriage, right? Perhaps this was what dating was like. Inexplicably, it would feel sweet. Including when she was eating. It was the same. Bojio had always been a fast eater, even though her posture was elegant, she couldn't slow down. Chin Mo sat in front of her, wiping her mouth and taking food for her, much more than himself. This breakfast was really too much for him. Bojio couldn't move. Chin Mo pulled her over and massaged her stomach for her. Even his breath carried the refreshing scent of mint. Bojio smiled, thinking that it would be great if it was like this in the future. There probably weren't many people like this. When she had been young, he had been worried that she would get indigestion, so he would always rub her stomach. Now that she had grown up, he would still rub her stomach after she ate too much. In reality, even if the old men didn't say it, she would still treat him well. There were many people in this world, countless. Chin Mo, there was only one. But the two of them couldn't stay like this for the whole day. The Asian Cup had just ended. This was the time when the media and fans wanted to understand them. As the captain of Supreme Alliance, if Chin Mo didn't attend, it wouldn't be justifiable. At this moment, Feng Yi was a successful sly manager. He called young Master Chin again, but he was hung up. He called Bojio directly. Chin Mo had just finished washing the fruits, his back straight as he took a piece of paper, wiping his fingers slowly, gesturing for Bojio to hold the phone for him. Bojio took the apple, her other hand holding the phone, pressing it against the side of his handsome face. Feng Yi lowered his voice as he explained the process and pros and cons. In the end, he concluded, "You have to participate in this interview. Don't worry, I won't ask you to speak too much and it won't affect your time with Little Spade. It's just a 5-minute interview." "I'm not going," Chin Mo replied lazily, reverting back to his young master's temperament. Feng Yi inhaled deeply, telling himself not to stoop to his level. This wasn't the first time this person didn't like to show his face. Competition was an exception. He had thought that after the Asian Cup, the Almighty would cooperate with him. But from the looks of it, he had too much. Yes. Chapter 1386. Before Feng Yi could finish, Chin Mo interrupted him. His voice nonchalant. "Ask the organizers if they want to bring a family member." "Little Spade?" Feng Yi chuckled lightly. "They definitely require a family member." "Bojio." Chin Mo glanced at the person holding the phone, knowing that she had heard it as well. He smiled. "What time is it?" 1 p.m. on the top floor of the club. There had been people who wanted to interview them, and this time, their wish came true. Chin Mo tilted his head. "You heard it. The organizers require a family member." Bojio. Just like that, the Almighty brought Bojio to the company. She wasn't really his family member. Anyway, she was the driver when they came here. When they reached the ground floor of the club, it was filled with fans. This was probably the effect of the Asian Cup. It would be too eye-catching if the two of them entered. Chin Mo was about to call the security guards to control the situation. On the other side, Bo Jio pushed the door open and walked out. She stuffed a hand into her pocket, her scarf covering her face. Chin Mo arched a brow. Bo Jio looked at him in confusion. She had already opened the door, but the Almighty wasn't alighting. Chin Mo exchanged glances with a certain someone. When he heard the screams, big spade, my hubby, I want to give birth to your child, he broke into a sudden laugh. Your popularity isn't bad. His cold voice didn't sound like a compliment. Bo Jio was confused. What was wrong with little Princess Chin? He definitely didn't hold hands. With that in mind, she turned and held onto the door frame with one hand. She planted a kiss on Chin Mo's face before tugging his wrist and walking forward happily. Chin Mo listened to the commotion and looked at the person who was dragging him forward. There was a faint smile in the bottom of his eyes. When the fans saw this scene, they had mixed feelings. Especially Chin Mo's fans. Their Almighty had been coaxed out of the car by Big Spade, hadn't he? From the posture just now, it seemed like Big Spade was the more aggressive one. She turned to look at the stunned Spade fans and coughed lightly. Forgive me, our Almighty Chin isn't like this usually. He actually coaxed by his girlfriend. Shameless to the point of making one's hair stand on end. But for some reason he still looked so handsome. Even though he had a cold personality, when he saw Spade Z, he would reveal a mesmerizing smile. Not to mention, when Big Spade held his hand, he even gave his fans a bonus. Wait a minute. Almighty Chin would never give out benefits. But what was going on now? He actually stopped in front of a group of people. Bo Jio was confused as well. She arched a brow. Chin Mo didn't look at her. Instead, he looked at the girls standing at the side. Do you want an autograph? Not. Of course he wanted it. The fans were going crazy. Chin Mo reached out and took the carbon pen from one of them. He lowered his lids and wrote slowly while saying, "There's something you need to pay attention to." Yes. Almighty Chin, speak. What do I need to pay attention to? They were so close to each other, and his gay friend had even laughed at him. If he came, he definitely wouldn't be able to get Almighty Chin's autograph. Almighty Chin was the kind of person who didn't show his face for 100 years, let alone an autograph. Now, he felt as though he was in a dream. Chin Mo had already finished signing. He took a long time because he added a prefix, Z's boyfriend, Chin Mo. This autograph was really, Bo Jio's expression was indescribable. Chin Mo's fans coughed once more, trying to preserve their Almighty's image. People in love are like this, it's true. Spade Z's fans nodded. No one in love would sign like this. Almighty Chin was really unprecedented. Chin Mo's fans knew that their Almighty's actions would definitely go down in history. Fortunately, no one exposed him. Reality proved that even if no one exposed him, young Master Chin would follow through with whatever he wanted to do. For example, he could have left after signing the autograph. Unexpectedly, he didn't leave. Instead, he stood there and smiled. It's not a big deal, but... With that, he pulled Bo Jio in front of him. This person can only have children with me. As for the husband that you call him, it's impossible. The fans who were disqualified paused for a moment. So Almighty Chin had stopped to give them an autograph just to tell them this? This time, the Chin Mo's fans didn't know what to say. They could only cover their faces to express their emotions. Their Almighty Chin was really arrogant and full of jealousy. Very quickly, this scene became a trending topic on a certain blog. Zhao Sanpang, who happened to be doing a live stream today, saw it. Our brother Zhao had quite a number of fans. His fans would tease him. Hey, brother Zhao, you're even fatter today. But just a moment ago, the atmosphere was different. That was because the fans were asking a different question. Brother Zhao, when are you going to find a girlfriend? Zhao Sanpang wore his headphones, playing games while looking at the screen. He waved his hands. No, if I find one, what about my female fans? I have to be responsible for them. Brother Zhao, wake up. C. Brother Zhao, how can you have female fans? You must be dreaming again. We are all blue avatars. Look at the logo, it's a guy. To be honest, Brother Zhao, even your archenemy Chin Mo has started dating. The only person I want to turn gay is in a relationship. Why aren't you doing anything? Zhao Sunpeng's fans knew that Chin Mo's name was his explosive point. Once it was mentioned, it would explode. As expected, Zhao Sanpeng stopped playing games. Manage, lock the screen, lock the person who wants to turn gay for Chin Mo. I only want straight men. F***CK, Chin Mo, that guy is a walking dog food. The fans immediately started shouting 666, he must have been provoked. Old Zhao, don't cry. It's okay if you don't have a girlfriend, you can hug your chubby self. Zhao Sanpeng was furious. I'm going to hug my head, I'm going to challenge Chin Mo to a duel tonight. I'll let him show off his dog food all day long. Who knew that as soon as he finished speaking? The bullet screen was full of comments. All of them had the same sentence. Don't go, I'm afraid you'll be beaten until you call me daddy. Zhao Sanpeng felt like he couldn't continue living like this. Why were other people's fans cute, while his were a bunch of rough guys who spoke the truth? No way. He had to post Chin Mo's shameless public display of affection in the WeChat group. The most handsome man in the world, your Lord Fatty, are you there? Come out. Lin Chen Taodao, F***CK, I'm impressed that you change your name every day. The most handsome man in the world, your Lord Fatty, you flatter me. Did you see Weibo today? Don't you think someone is especially shameless? I saw it, there's no limit to how shameless he is. I watched it with a chicken wing in my mouth. After that, I really wanted to beat someone up. I don't want to say anything, I just want to call 110. Someone is abusing a kind dog like me. That signature is really enough, what do you guys think? I think we should tag someone, Chin Mo. I think someone should send a red packet. They're already dating, right? Chin Mo, send a double. Since there are two of them, they should send a double. Forget about Little Spade, her boyfriend will send it, Chin Mo. It was probably because his phone kept ringing. Bo Jio glanced over. It was a rare sight to see the Almighty sending a WeChat message. She wanted to see it. He wasn't going to let her. He blocked her with one hand and lifted his chin. Sit over there. Really, he was guarding against her like a wolf. Bo Jio arched a brow. While he was lowering his lids, she pressed down on his wrist. She took the chance to take a few glances. Chin Mo chuckled. What is it? Mrs. Chin, are you checking on me? Bo Jio hadn't expected such content. Instantly, she felt like she was at a disadvantage. She picked up the mineral water and took a sip. When she glanced over, the Almighty's fingers moved. Are you really going to send it? The Almighty didn't seem like the type to send red packets. It was a trap. As expected, Bo Jio glanced at the screen again. The red packet had indeed been sent, but the name of the red packet was infuriating. Dog food. Bo Jio could foresee that the Almighty's group would explode with the words Chin Mo is shameless. Chin Mo, on the other hand, was extremely calm. After sending the red packet, he kept his phone as though he wasn't the one who had started the fire. Bo Jio couldn't help but take out her phone and enter WeChat. Chin Mo. If you have the guts, don't leave WeChat and don't turn off your phone. This was Zhao Sanpeng. Even through the screen, Bo Jio could feel the resentment in his voice. Honestly, the hatred the Almighty had garnered today was enough for her to challenge a beast king. How did it feel to have such a boyfriend? He probably wanted to laugh. When the interviewer came in, he saw the faint smile on the youngster's face. It was probably because of her long legs as she sat lazily on the chair with a mineral water bottle in her hand. Even though he knew she was a girl, he couldn't help but admire her handsomeness. Bo Jio glanced over slightly, her gaze landing on the employee's name tag. She stood up, stuffing a hand into her pocket as though she was about to leave. Chin Mo reached out and tugged on her sleeve. Bo Jio, wasn't he going to do an interview? She wanted to take a stroll. Chin Mo replied nonchalantly, the organizers have arranged seats for the family members. The interviewer immediately replied, that's right, Almighty Z. Even though this is a solo interview, we hope for the family members to be around. The interviewer bit the bullet as such situations were rare. But if she still couldn't understand Almighty Chin's gaze, she wouldn't be able to stay in the industry. But she had to thank Almighty Chin for this. The worst-case scenario was that Almighty Chin wouldn't be able to come. Unexpectedly, Almighty Chin wasn't the only one who came, even Spadesy was here. Their show had yet to start and they were already on fire. Bo Gio had always been cooperative with others. This was probably due to her upbringing. She had been like this ever since she was young. She might be cold, but she wasn't emotionless. Her father had taught her to respect everyone's career since she was young. Hence, even now, Bo Gio wouldn't put anyone in a difficult position. She sat there, the floor-to-ceiling window behind her. Chin Mo had asked Assistant Zhang to send Princess over. She hugged him, intending to play with the cat for a while. Princess was infuriated. In order to express his anger, he kept purring. But this person wasn't threatened by him at all. Princess could tell that his master had spoiled a certain someone to the point of being out of control. He wouldn't stand up for him. It was better for him to adapt to the circumstances and be a well-behaved cat. After all, it wasn't bad being hugged by this person. The interviewer was satisfied with the arrangement. Even though Spadesy didn't show her face and had her back turned, everyone knew who she was just by looking at her back. Besides, the aloof youngster hugging the cat and wearing a black sweater was too handsome. As a mature woman, she was about to turn gay. He probably noticed the interviewer's gaze. Chin Mo's long fingers tapped the table, his voice slow. Not interviewing anymore? Almighty Chin, I'm sorry, the interviewer said as she gestured to the cameraman who was following them. Chin Mo seemed to be answering some questions, but in his heart, he wasn't just on guard against men, he had to be on guard against women as well. Speaking of Almighty Chin's relationship problems, it's what the fans want to know the most. The interviewer seemed to be chatting casually, but in reality, she was stunned by Almighty Chin, who was emitting a cold aura. For some reason, Almighty Chin seemed scary. Almighty Chin and Almighty Z, which one of you confessed first? Is it convenient for you to tell me? Bo Gio heard the question too. Her hand that was caressing the cat's back paused. Was there a need to ask? Of course it was her. She had wanted to buy little Princess Chin when she was young, but he would always frown when he saw her. It was obvious that he didn't have any feelings for her. But before she could finish her thought, she heard the word, me. The interviewer was slightly surprised. Almighty Chin doesn't seem like someone who would confess to others. She didn't have a choice, she's stupid. Even if I gave her my entire body, she wouldn't be able to sense it. I could only confess. Chin Mo's tone was obviously different from before. The interviewer laughed. Judging from Almighty Z's gaming style, she doesn't seem stupid. Almighty Chin might have been too subtle and Almighty Z might not have understood it. That's possible. After all, she was too young back then and didn't know how to read. Chin Mo didn't just answer the question but also threw a stone for the interviewer to continue asking. As expected. She was too young back then? Gosh, did you and Almighty Z know each other since you were young? The interviewer felt that she had dug out a huge piece of information. Chin Mo replied nonchalantly, "Is it strange?" No, it's just that during the Asian Cup, the fans saw the interaction between Almighty Z and Almighty Hoshino and thought that they knew each other since they were young. Chin Mo smiled. Everyone should know the truth now. Chapter 1387. I do have something to remind him of. Chin Mo glanced up casually. There was a smile on his lips, but it didn't seem warm at all. It's here. It's here. The female host was extremely excited. She had a premonition that the fans would definitely be concerned about such a question. After all, everyone had seen the scene at the Asian Cup. What is it? Almighty Chin, can you elaborate? The female host passed the microphone over, her eyes filled with gossip. Chin Mo lifted the corner of his lips, his voice slow. Hoshino, you see Shin has been waiting for you for a long time. When are you going to have a good talk with him? The female host was confused. After all, she had predicted thousands of results, but not this one. Almighty Chin, are you saying that Almighty Xin and Almighty Hoshino, Wait a minute. She had to calm down. She had to watch her words. This was the only way she could dig out more information. But before she could react, Chin Mo spoke again. His tall figure stood up, his aura of abstinence thick. I don't mean anything. 5 minutes are up. My girlfriend and I are going to meet the parents. Please go ahead. The female host wanted to continue asking, but she didn't have the guts. Beside her was the CEO's secretary. When she heard Boss Chin's words, she smiled lightly and led the interviewers out. The Chin Club had always been polite to anyone who came to cooperate. But who could understand the frustration of a reporter who only heard half of the information? The female host and cameraman felt the same way. Bo Jio, who was hugging Princess, stood up after they left. Brother Mo, you did it on purpose. When Chin Mo saw her face, he turned and smiled. What are you doing on purpose? You purposely led everyone to misunderstand the relationship between Hoshino and Yu Cixin. Bo Jio muttered softly. That's too shameless. Chin Mo narrowed his eyes and pulled her over. I'm shameless? Bo Jio opened her mouth but didn't say anything. Since I'm already so shameless. Chin Mo held her waist. Why don't I be more shameless? Hey! Bo Jio felt his hand reaching in. Her waist softened. This is the office. Chin Mo leaned forward and kissed her neck, his voice deep. Don't worry, no one will come in. Wasn't this a question of who was there? Bo Jio's hands were already weak from the kiss. The princess took the opportunity to run away. She didn't even have her only cover anymore. Behind him was the desk where he had sat and signed countless contracts. His back was pressed against it, and he could feel the coolness of the business. There seemed to be some papers on the table, and they were all scattered on the ground. The temperature gradually rose. When two people are together, they become addicted to everything. Probably because they always wanted to be close to each other. Or perhaps it was because of the fatal attraction that had existed since the beginning. It was just that he had some misgivings in the past. Now, there seemed to be nothing to worry about. A numb sensation spread from her tailbone, accompanied by a pleasant peppermint scent. It was the unique scent of a man. It was as if it had been smashed into pieces, infecting her body bit by bit. You are mine. You can only be mine. Bo Jio listened to his possessive words, her back turning hot. After all, the Almighty had never done this before. Chapter 1388. The numbness didn't dissipate even after his hand left her body. Bo Jio felt that this couldn't go on. Every time, the Almighty would use his charm on her. She couldn't just let herself sink into it. Actually, this time, he didn't do anything because he had considered her body. But the more he did that, the more she heard his panting beside her ear, the more numb her back felt. Less than a quarter of an hour had passed. The temperature in the room dipped. Only then did he pull her up and take her to wash her hands. Bo Jio was always the one being taken care of. Seeing him tilt his head, she couldn't help but say, Brother Mo, why did you tell the host that you confessed first? I was the one who confessed first. I wanted to buy you the first time I saw you, but you rejected me. Chin Mo was speechless. It's not good for your reputation to say that the girl took the initiative. Chin Mo's attention wasn't on this, he was nonchalant. Bo Jio paused. She was worried that it would damage her reputation. Was that why he said that? What should she do? She always liked the person standing in front of her more than the day before. He seemed to be like this forever. He thought a lot for her in places you didn't know. When they were alone, he was so arrogant that he wanted you to chase after him. But in front of outsiders, he was the one doing everything. What are you doing, little Bo Jio? Chin Mo helplessly allowed the person in front of him to hug his waist. There were still bubbles in his hands. He could only look at her and arched a brow. Do something bad and I'll throw you out. Bo Jio laughed. She was full of playfulness, completely unbothered by his threat. Chin Mo looked at her hedonistic young master's behavior, and there was a smile in the depths of his eyes. It was rare for them to have such moments. They sat in a room. He read his contract while she played with her cat. Every 10 minutes or so, he would walk over and pinch her face or kiss her. Bo Jio felt that she was a qualified study boy. Even though she didn't need to make tea or pour water, she could help the Almighty during his boring times. If the people outside heard this, they would definitely die in a matter of minutes. How could their boss Chin ever be so bored? But the best thing today was that boss Chin didn't laugh coldly. Not even once. Even the people in the project department were in a daze. They had thought that their world would end after the Asian Cup. After all, it meant that boss Chin's attention would return to the company. It was the end of the year. For every department, this was a big sweep. He really didn't expect it. Boss would be so casual this year. As long as you don't go in and take up too much time, you won't be criticized. Young Master Gio, oh no, young Mistress Gio was truly a blessing to them. Are you hungry? Chin Mo glanced over. Bo Gio held a biscuit in her mouth. It's all right. It seems like working with me is a little boring. Chin Mo put down the pen in his hand and raised his eyebrows. Let's find something to do? Bo Gio lit up. That was possible. She had been watching the Almighty seriously signing the contract and wanted to go over and kiss him. The sense of abstinence in business made her heart itch. According to the usual CEO script, finding something to do must be intimate, right? However, this boyfriend of hers never played by the rules. Your physics book is still with me. Come here and review. Bo Gio. Chapter 1389. Bo Gio felt weak and listless. On the other hand, the Almighty was as noble as ever. He held the pen in one hand and tapped her forehead. Don't tell me you don't know how to do this question. Brother Mo, don't you think it's a waste to use our time together to revise physics? Bo Gio tried to pull the atmosphere back. Chin Mo looked at her. I don't think so. There was no way to continue chatting on this day. Bo Gio glanced at the physics knowledge in front of her. She couldn't help but reach out and grab her hair. She was the young lord of the hacker world, but she couldn't even handle a single lesson. Losing in this aspect was really, Chin Mo could probably tell that a certain someone was depressed. He liked to see her like this. It's time for the final exam. If you don't work hard and do well, how are you going to face your mother-in-law? It was supposed to be a simple test. Hearing the Almighty's words. Why did he really have a psychological burden? Wait a minute. A person like Movie Queen and probably wouldn't care about results. Bo Gio tilted her head. Movie Queen and cares about the results? In the past, I was always first, what do you think? Chin Mo asked slowly. Bo Gio became serious. Little did they know. What Chin Mo said was true. But there was something he didn't mention. When Chin Mo had been in high school, Movie Queen and had always wanted to grab her son to go shopping. Every time, her cold little boy would say, Mom, I still have to study, as an excuse. At that moment, Movie Queen said, it's okay if you fail. It could be seen that after such an analysis, little Bo Gio was tricked again. But this time, Chin Mo was the first to admit defeat. He just liked to see her depressed expression, but he didn't want her to forget to eat and sleep. Chin Mo frowned when he saw that she wasn't even drinking the water he fed her. He moved the physics book away. Bo Gio glanced up. I'm not done. There's no need to look. Chin Mo's voice was calm. I lied to you just now. My mom doesn't care about grades at all. You're her little Almighty. She likes whatever you do. Bo Gio paused, twisting her neck with one hand. Phew, Brother Mo, be more sincere. But why did you suddenly want me to review? It couldn't be because of that inhuman interest again. Although the Almighty used this to tease her. But this time, he felt that there was something else. Nothing, Chin Mo replied casually. Bo Gio seemed to remember something. She glanced at his phone that had just been ringing. It was a call from the school. Chin Mo didn't hide anything. Bo Gio was confused. What did he say? It's about filling in the application form. Chin Mo placed the cup in front of her lips. Bo Gio was suddenly enlightened. Brother Mo, are you trying to get me into your university? No wonder he wanted her to review physics. After all, a university's admission score was unusually high. Chin Mo did not deny it. Bo Gio pulled her physics book back, intending to continue reading. Unexpectedly, Chin Mo reached out and blocked the page. I'm not going to look at it, your current results are fine. What if I fail? Bo Gio bit the tip of her pen. Let's see if it's safe. Chin Mo lifted her up, placing her on his long legs. It's fine if I fail, I'll transfer to whichever school you get into. It doesn't matter where I go. Bo Gio paused, drinking the water he fed her. Even the tip of her tongue was sweet. Chapter 1390. But his handsomeness only lasted for a second. The next second. But even so, you still have to read the physics book? Bo Gio. Just as the two of them were in the office. The members of the Japanese team were shopping. Jiang City had the longest history in China. There were many places worth visiting. Moreover, the competition had already ended. There wasn't any psychological burden when they played. Of course, that was at the beginning. Later on, someone took off his mask when he was eating the tonghulu. The entire street of tobacco bags seemed to have been ignited. The youth was speechless. Hey, can't you keep a low profile? You know your face is more ostentatious. Vice captain and captain are more ostentatious. Why don't you say so? With that, his tone suddenly changed. He looked at the tonghulu in his hand, his eyes round and clear. Good news. It was so delicious? The youth snatched it over. The speed at which they avoided the fans was very fast. It could be seen that they were a group of experienced fans. Yu Cixin and Hoshino were nonchalant from the start to the end. Especially Yu Cixin. Before a certain idiot took off his mask, he had already entered the shop next door and picked out a paper fan with a Chinese flavor. It should look good with the kimono at home. After choosing, he realized that he didn't bring his wallet. He pursed his thin lips. He dialed a certain someone's number. The paper fan shop on the right, come over. Hoshino was wearing a mask too. He was wearing a pure white down jacket. The design was huge and there was a circle of pure black fur on the collar. Not many men could wear such clothes. But Hoshino was obviously an exception. His legs were too long. Coupled with the aura he had, any clothes on him would look like luxury brands. Hoshino didn't say much when he saw Yu Cixin calling him over. He just threw his wallet to him. Yu Cixin took it and gave 3 pieces to the cashier. It was a normal action. But it made the eyes of the surrounding girls who were shopping for paper fans light up. After all, in China, no man would buy paper fans. Besides some cosplayers, they were gay. But the aura of these two people didn't seem like cosplayers. Could they be a couple? They were all wearing masks. Yu Cixin noticed the gaze from the side but didn't say anything. He just smiled devilishly, making it hard for others to understand him. Most of the media who received the news were attracted away by the other members of the Japanese team. In other words, they were too busy chasing after their target and didn't realize that there was a bigger fish behind them. Of course, there were also lucky reporters who followed them. There was a new esports enthusiast. Because the camera he was carrying was too heavy, he couldn't run anymore. He wanted to order a stew to cook first. He didn't expect that as soon as he got the stew, he would be stopped by 2 people walking towards him. Believe big. Star God. Even though both of them were wearing masks. But for the Japanese fans who had been there for 5 years, it was a piece of cake to distinguish them. He couldn't care less about eating. He took the camera and walked around, blocking in front of Yu Cixin. He mustered up his courage. You must be Shinda. I'm a fan of Dongying and also a reporter of Cheng Entertainment. This is my ID. Due to the different regions, the cultural differences were also different. After he finished speaking, he added the word, please, at the end. Yu Cixin originally thought that most of the reporters had left. He didn't expect there to be one more. But to him, it wasn't a big deal. Chapter 1391. The reporter didn't expect Almighty Xian to be so easy to talk to. He was afraid that he would offend Almighty Xian if he asked too directly, so he could only change his method. It's like this, Almighty Xian probably hasn't seen Almighty Qin's interview. Almighty Qin said that you have been waiting for Almighty Hoshino for a long time. Cough. Do you think he is right? Yu Cixin didn't have any reaction. Hoshino arched a brow. What did he mean? The reporter saw that Yu Cixin wasn't replying and wanted to cough again. Unexpectedly, Yu Cixin raised his hand and placed his arm on Hoshino's shoulder. He lifted the corners of his lips. Do you think he is right? The reporters were all stunned at that moment. He even forgot to press the camera button. When he came back to his senses, Yu Cixin had already taken a step forward. Almighty Hoshino was in the crowd too. But his voice could be heard. You did that on purpose, right? Isn't it good to verify Chinmo's words? Heh, it's probably because you're too threatening. Hoshino, haven't you realized something? You and Z are too intimate. Yu Cixin was nonchalant. As a boyfriend, he shouldn't be happy to see such intimacy. Hoshino laughed lightly. As Z's boyfriend, shouldn't he be prepared for this? Z has always been likable. Yu Cixin, what's the meaning of that flaunting expression? He didn't want to shop anymore. Seriously, there wasn't much to shop. Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes. His slender figure was about to leave. If Hoshino hadn't pulled him back. Go over there and take a look. What are you looking at? Yu Cixin's young master's actions were devilishly handsome. Hoshino's voice was as gentle as usual. Don't you need to raise the little thing you brought back? I really don't understand whether you are the master or me. We don't have enough cat food. There's a shop over there, we can buy some. Yu Cixin didn't say much. After walking a few steps, he said faintly, You are more attentive to a cat than to me. Tobacco Bag Slanted Street was especially crowded at this time. There were sounds everywhere. In addition, they had to avoid the reporters and fans who might recognize them. Hence, Hoshino didn't hear what Yu Cixin said. She tilted her head. Her face was still covered by a mask, revealing only a pair of ink-like eyes. What did you just say? Nothing. Yu Cixin stuffed his hands into his coat pocket, acting like a rich young master. Where's the shop you mentioned? Hoshino walked forward. Why would someone who doesn't even know the cat food store bring a cat home? I met it when I was cleaning up the people. It was raining. I can't possibly get rid of the cat too. Yu Cixin said this casually. Hoshino could almost imagine the scene at that time. It was definitely a group of black-clothed men. He stood at the very front, looking so lazy that he didn't seem like he was here to capture anyone, but he was more sinister than anyone else. Of course, he didn't have to clear the place. But the actions of the fifth-generation head had never been difficult to understand. That was why he was able to subdue his subordinates and make them obedient. He must have seen a cat on the side of the road on a rainy day after cleaning up, so he opened his leather jacket with a cigarette in his mouth and carried the cat back into his arms. This person had no affinity with animals. He had seen him with a cat print on his chin. It was probably because his face was too ostentatious, so ostentatious that even the cat couldn't stand it. In addition, when he came back, he just threw the cat away. He was even more arrogant than the cat. In high school, this person could defeat a group of people alone. They would meet on the rooftop of the school and within a day, he would become the boss. He had been like this ever since he was young. He hated it when people said that he was beautiful. If anyone dared to talk about his looks, that person would be at the end of his life. Hoshino smiled. He pushed the door open and walked into the pet shop. Other than cat food, there was nothing else he wanted to buy. But the interview that the reporter mentioned. It seemed like he should take a look. Yu Cixin really felt aggrieved as the owner of the house. He switched off his phone. Chinmo had better keep an eye on Z. But even if he didn't, there was nothing he could do. In China, Z couldn't do anything wrong. Yu Cixin was most worried that Chinmo didn't have enough control over his side and Z would return to the Fifth Avenue. If that was the case, Hoshino would follow her. The young lord of the hackers. Honestly speaking, he was interested in the past. But now, he didn't have a good impression of her. Hoshino didn't know what he was thinking. He took a bag of cat food and passed it to Yu Cixin. How does it taste? Yu Cixin took it and placed a piece in his mouth. His expression was as arrogant as ever. Not bad. The people in the pet shop were all shocked. Such a handsome person just put cat food in his mouth. Hoshino paused and pinched his face. Spit it out. Spit what out? You're not the one asking me about the taste. It was obvious that Yu Cixin had forgotten where they were. Hoshino smiled helplessly. There was a smile in his voice. Hey, I asked you to smell it, not eat it. That's cat food. Yu Cixin. Not wanting to talk was probably the portrayal of Yu Cixin, the big boss, today. Hoshino knew that he couldn't understand some Chinese. After picking a bag, he turned and asked, "Do you want another bag?" Yu Cixin scoffed. "One bag isn't enough for that stupid cat? I'm not buying it for it." Hoshino took out his wallet. His fingers were slender. "The extra bag is for you." Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes. "Do you want to fight?" "Sure." Hoshino took the bag. "Let's go back." The reporter who was eavesdropping outside rubbed his nose. It seemed like gay love was a lie. The internal situation in Japan wasn't peaceful. It was obvious between the vice captain and the captain. The vice captain didn't listen to the captain. But how should he write the topic? It was really difficult for this iron-willed newbie. No matter what, he had to post the photo online. Although Exenda put his hand on Hoshino's shoulder, he felt that he was joking. Buying cat food was more realistic. At least there was a conflict between the two of them. Right. That's right. Create a conflict. The newbie reporter felt that his idea was good. After all, there was a topic with a conflict. This was an unknown rule on the internet. Someone would definitely pay attention to it. After all, the vice captain was going to fight the captain one-on-one. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was a good idea. After posting the photo, the newbie reporter decided to give the two of them some space and didn't continue to follow up. After about 3 minutes, he went on Weibo to take a look. The scene he imagined didn't happen at all. Instead, a bunch of people were saying, let's go buy cat food together. It's so loving. I'm definitely on the Hoshino CP. Chapter 1392. The public display of affection had been going around the internet the entire day. She had assumed it was over. But the more Bojio looked at the household register that the Almighty had given her, the more she felt there was something in it. She took some time to put on her uniform before heading downstairs. After the interview, the crowd had dispersed. Supreme Alliance's official fans had a sense of order. They were more enthusiastic than anyone else when they visited. But they also understood that it wasn't good to stay here. Hence, after the event ended, the fans packed up their banners and went back to edit. Almighty Chin's words and actions were enough for a year's worth of love videos. Unbeknownst to them, in the evening not long after they left, a youngster walked down. A young man walked down. Although he was wearing a hat and a mask, his eyes were very special. She opened the Lamborghini's door and locked it. Activate voice recognition. Voice recognition activated. After the intelligence system connected to the internet, it saw its master's face in the rear mirror. The car shuddered inexplicably, an indescribable sense of familiarity. As expected, Bojio unbuttoned her jacket and arched a brow. "I'm here to analyze something." "Master, if it's about your boyfriend, you don't have to look for me." Little Blackie's voice was calm, but after the system's analysis, its master was here to flaunt her affection again. Why was Master still harassing it even after leaving the army? Didn't she have a bunch of fans online? Go and look for them. As a single car, it was under a lot of pressure. Bojio tilted her body, a mischievous smile on her face. "It's up to me, not you. Little Blackie, have I been treating you too well recently, ain't? Do you have to make me listen? Can I play a song for you? Master, you humans are so noble. When I found this song that day, I felt like it was written about me." Little Blackie sang the lyrics. "I'll be waiting downstairs in 3 minutes. If your boyfriend isn't obedient, I'll chase him out. If you're lonely, I'll talk to you." Bojio laughed. "Enough, you're an intelligent system. Why are you learning a love song? Master, you've changed. You weren't like this in the past. You used to love me so much." Little Blackie changed his tone. Bojio smirked. "Next time, don't watch idol dramas online. Be more normal. Take a look at this." As soon as Xiao Hei scanned it, 3 words appeared in the data system: household register. The Demon King's household register? Little Black's tone was very specific. It was very calm, but even so, it was still trying its best to express its fear. The great demon king could have given anything, but why did he have to give this to his master? Also, what was the meaning of his master's sweet smile? H. Brother Mo's household register. Do you think Brother Mo is hinting at something by giving me his household register? Bo Gio tapped her chin with her fingers, looking suave. Little Black didn't want to speak because he knew that even if he didn't speak, his master would still be able to give him an answer. Did he want me to confirm our relationship but was too embarrassed to say it directly? That's why he gave me a household register? Bo Gio shook her head helplessly. Brother Mo has always been like this since he was young, shy. Little Black, it really couldn't imagine what the great devil looked like when he was shy. Chapter 1393. At this moment, Bo Gio couldn't hear Little Blackie's shouts. You've been overseas with me for a long time. There's something you definitely don't know. In China, people rarely send their household register. So, if cars had expressions, Blackie would definitely be speechless. You're hinting for me to propose. Bo Gio broke into a beautiful smile. Brother Mo, you really don't mean what you say. Little Black felt the need to stop him. Master, don't forget what Grandpa Butler said. As a girl, you have to be a lady. What does a proposal have to do with being a lady? Besides, Brother Mo has already given himself to me. If I don't express my gratitude, wouldn't I be a scumbag? I'm not a sugar daddy for nothing. Bo Gio glanced at Little Blackie casually. Xiao Hei. Fine. You're so handsome. Whatever you say is right. I'm just a driver. Why should I argue with you? It had to ask the netizens later. After the owner found a boyfriend, she didn't pamper the car anymore. What was it going to do? She hadn't been joking when she said she wanted to propose. Since they were going to propose, there had to be a sense of ceremony. Grandpa Butler was an expert in this area. Of course, they had to find him. When Grandpa Butler received a call from his young master, he was trimming the orchids he had recently raised. After hearing the conversation, his eyes darkened. Young Master, does young Master Qin know that you're going to propose? Of course I don't know. If I knew, what other surprise would there be? Grandpa Butler thought to himself, that shouldn't be young Master Qin's plan. No matter how I look at it, it looks like something that our young master came up with. Thinking up to this point, Grandpa Butler once again felt that there was something wrong with his education. He had to remedy it. Young Master, you're still young now. You're not allowed to get married in China. That's nothing, we can get engaged first. Bo Gio leaned against the back of the car, her gaze bright. Grandpa Butler. When their young master became smart, there was really no way to save him. All right. Grandpa Butler took off his gloves. Get engaged first. After all, this is China. As long as they didn't get married, if young Master Qin did anything wrong to young Lord in the future, he could still bring young Lord back to the Fifth Avenue. After all, it was convenient to do anything there. Here, young Master has to redo the messaging system. Of course, although it took time, it was easy for the king of hackers. However, Grandpa Butler hadn't even thought about moving their headquarters to Huaxia. When the boss was still alive, he wanted to return to his homeland many times. However, there were still some things that were inconvenient. It's good that young Master Qin is here. It was probably because of this that the Key Case Investigation Unit no longer published such reports. What they were thinking was that since young Master Qin could restrain young Master, things wouldn't be too chaotic in the future. In reality, the restrictions were mutual. In the end, it was those two who were willing. He found a balance between black and white. This balance would not be broken in the near future. Grandpa Butler was worried about the future. This time, for the sake of the Asian Cup, young Master wanted to participate in the movie. He still had to find an internal solution. At the very least, no one would think that it was really Z. He had to make them feel that young Master was only acting. Also, about the proposal. Grandpa Butler stretched out his hand, like a perfect gentleman, and pressed his forehead. Since the young Master was serious. Chapter 1394. On the other side. After the discussion, Chin Mo walked back to his office. He glanced at the empty black leather sofa and turned over. His long fingers tugged at his tie, his tone indiscernible. Where is she? His assistant cursed inwardly. Boss Chin had told him to watch over young Master Gio. Oh no, Miss Gio. She was here just now, the secretary, who had been delivering tea and pastries the entire afternoon, replied. She didn't dare to breathe heavily. Just as the air in the office started to turn cold, Bo Gio pushed open the door. Bo Gio reached out and pushed the door open. She arched a brow. Brother, are you done? Chin Mo's voice was calm. He threw his tie onto the office table and walked over. He held her hand and said, do as you see fit. He brought Bo Gio downstairs. They walked from the office to the elevator. Countless people wanted to stand up and take a look. Even though they knew that Boss Chin's girlfriend wasn't simple and had seen her on the internet, it wasn't common. But it wasn't common to see her in real life. Even though she was a member of the club under their company, it was the same. This was a portion of the staff. The other portion was a huge fan of Spade Z. When they saw her in real life, they felt like they were floating. How could Boss Chin lock such a handsome male god in his office and not let him come out? Now they finally saw her again. The hearts of the female workers were rippling. The entire atmosphere was different from before. Especially the smell of perfume. It was much lighter. Someone had heard that Spade Z would feel uncomfortable after smelling perfume. All of them started to move. She had never dressed so innocently before. That's right, she looked innocent. Of course, other than the change in makeup. There were even bolder ones. When they saw Boss Chin holding Spade Z's hand, they mustered up their courage. Boss Chin, I'm a fan of Almighty Z, can I give her something? Chin Mo arched a brow. His thin lips seemed to be on the verge of spitting out a word. What is it? Bo Gio opened her mouth before him. She revealed her canine teeth and smiled beautifully. When the female worker saw that smile, she clutched her small heart and raised the bag in her hand high. Gloves, it's cold now. You usually use the computer a lot, so wearing gloves won't freeze your hands. Bo Gio watched his blushing face, her smile deepening. She reached for the bag, flipped it open and put one on. Thank you, I like it. Seeing this, Chin Mo glanced over and said slowly, pink and white plush, don't you think it's girly? The moment Bo Gio heard that, she knew the Almighty was jealous again. She tilted her head. I don't think so, brother. I'm a girl, there's nothing feminine about me. That's right, that's right. The female employees nodded. They wanted to be Big Spade. If she could wear this pair of gloves and a red checkered scarf, as long as she stood tall in the snow and smiled lightly, she would be able to melt people's hearts. It wasn't just because he was good-looking. He wanted to take it home and raise it. She wanted to pinch his face. Unfortunately, they didn't have the ability to do so, so they could only benefit their President Chin. Most importantly, no one dared to compete with Boss Chin. Their love rival was too strong and he was their boss. What else could they do? There was no point asking the netizens. Even if they couldn't take it home and raise it, they could still feed it. With this thought, everyone couldn't help but take action. Other than the gloves, there were also people who gave her cups, lollipops, and wrist guards. Once they started, they didn't care if their boss was around or not. You have to use this cup, drink more water in winter. The wrist guard is new, it's your favorite brand. And the lollipops. The assistant listened to the voices and glanced at Boss Chin's darkening face. He tilted his head silently. What should he do? Even if he was going to fire her, wasn't this too much? It was the new year and there were fewer talents. The company was also tight on manpower. Young Master Gio, oh no, Miss Gio, why did the sisters like her so much? Speaking of which, these people were usually very efficient, and they were also swift and decisive in doing things. If they weren't swift and decisive, they wouldn't have been able to enter this floor. Why did they all change the moment they saw Miss Gio? Their faces were filled with shyness. They looked as though they wanted to hug her and kiss her. Was this still the elite female team of the Chin group? They hadn't been like this when they saw Boss Chin during the interview. The omnipotent special assistant couldn't understand this point. Bo Jio's type was the one that attracted both men and women, regardless of age. She was the favorite of the sisters and aunties. There were so many gifts that Bo Jio couldn't carry them all with both hands. This was probably the limit of Chin Mo's patience. He tilted his head and glanced at the assistant behind him. That gaze was extremely cold. The assistant wiped his cold sweat and immediately went forward. "Miss Jio is busy. Please pass me the gifts and I will pass them to you. Let me remind everyone we are working hours now." Even though he said that, he was screaming in his heart. Didn't you see Boss Chin's expression? He looked as though he had knocked something over. The assistant was there to deal with the aftermath. Chin Mo grabbed the back of her collar and entered the elevator. The others didn't let them in. After pressing the first floor, he turned his hand and pressed onto Bo Jio's shoulder, pushing her into the elevator. His other hand was placed above her head, his body leaning down. There was a smile on his face, but it didn't look like he was happy. "Is the candy delicious?" "I'm not sure if it's considered delicious." Bo Jio smiled faintly and lifted her chin. "Why don't you try it?" Chin Mo looked at the pale lips that were inches away from him. There was still a trace of light. He reached out and pinched her face. "You accepted someone else's gift and you still want me to kiss you. Little Bo Jio, dream on." Bo Jio, she was rejected by her boyfriend every day. Who else would date like her? But she had no choice. She liked little Princess Chin. Even if he didn't allow her to kiss him, she would still kiss him. This time, Chin Mo didn't hide. Instead, he lowered his head and used his empty right hand to grab her waist, changing the intensity of the kiss completely. He didn't give the elevator a chance to open. This building belonged to the Chin group. Moreover, it was the elevator's password. Moreover, this elevator was originally exclusive to the president. Unless there was something special, Chin Mo was the only one who had the right to use it. This kind of elevator would be available in some conglomerate companies to save time for the senior management. But now, Chin Mo seemed to have developed a new function. Chapter 1395. The temperature continued to rise. Bo Jio could only hear his suppressed breathing and her own heartbeat. His black and white eyes were still filled with confusion. She placed her hands on Chin Mo's waist and bit her lips lightly. They were slightly red, like flowers in the morning, with dew on them. The numbness hadn't subsided because when she glanced up, she seemed confused. Why did they stop? Chin Mo's gaze sank. Chin Mo's eyes sank. After taking a deep breath, he covered her with his jacket and kissed her again. But this time, it was just a kiss. After all, even at this stage, young Master Chin hadn't forgotten that the location wasn't right. Even though the elevator was well sealed, there was one thing. Chin Mo glanced up, his cold eyes glancing towards the top left corner. The threatening gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through the screen. His assistant immediately switched off the surveillance equipment. The next second he received a call from Boss Chin. "Did you see it?" His assistant shook his head. "No. It was just a kiss." "Boss Chin, aren't you clearer than anyone else?" Chin Mo smirked. "In the future, don't install surveillance cameras in my elevator." His assistant truly felt that in the future, Boss Chin would often come to the company to display his affection. Bo Jio listened as Chin Mo hung up the phone. She was smart enough to notice that the Chin Group's security system had always been thorough. There would definitely be surveillance cameras in such elevators. Bo Jio wasn't embarrassed. She glanced up and thought for a moment before tilting her head. "Do you want me to remove them?" With that, Chin Mo buttoned her jacket. "Behave yourself, MMH? Aren't you afraid of the bad influence?" Bo Jio's smile was always devilish. Chin Mo chuckled. Which girlfriend would remove all the surveillance cameras in her boyfriend's company? You should hand them over to the security. Also, don't climb the ceiling, it's dirty. Bo Jio felt that the Almighty was despising her. But it didn't seem like it when he was zipping her up. He was probably afraid she would be cold outside. Bo Jio picked up the scarf she had just received. Chin Mo arched a brow. "You want to wear it? It looks good with my uniform." Bo Jio gestured. Chin Mo reached out and took the scarf away. "I'll buy you a better one." Bo Jio laughed lightly. Brother Mo, don't tell me you're jealous. Heh, what's there for me to be jealous of? Everyone's gifts added together are not as good as the one I gave you. Chi Nemo spoke slowly. After he helped her with her collar, he took out a mask and put it on her ears. When young Master Chin did these things, he gave off a feeling of extreme abstinence. It was hard to imagine that he would take care of anyone like that. Bo Jio tried to reveal her eyes. When did you give me a present? How other people express their love. Flowers for his girlfriend. Put in a good word for your girlfriend. Everything depended on his girlfriend. The Almighty didn't have any of these. The only fun he had was digging up her dark history and having a heart-to-heart talk with her at night. Basically, the content of their conversation was about how many people she had confessed to. Chin Mo watched the slightly depressed handsome face in front of him. He arched a brow nonchalantly, his voice faint. Am I not considered a present? Bo Jio choked, coughing lightly. How could she have forgotten about that? In that case, the Almighty's present was indeed better than everyone else's combined. Idiot. Chin Mo stared at her for a long while before breaking into a light chuckle. He pulled her up and left, taking all the gifts she had received along the way. Lollipops like these, I can buy them for you if you want. Do you want sweets from someone else or from your boyfriend, Ainsh? Bo Jio didn't have to think, of course it was from her boyfriend. Where's the scarf? Where's the glove? Such a cute and trendy item doesn't suit you. Anyway, Bo Jio understood the Almighty's meaning. She couldn't use the gifts from others. It would be a waste to throw them away. Bo Jio didn't want to throw away the gifts from her fans. Chin Mo's voice was calm. Who asked you to throw them away? Give it to Lin Feng, he suits this style. All right. Bo Jio broke into a smile. After the competition, Lin Feng was lying in the dormitory, resting. In reality, he was sleeping. When the dormitory manager called him down to take the gifts, he was still confused. Pink and white gloves? Checkered scarf? What were these? More importantly, the dormitory manager had told him, your friend said that you suit this style. What did he mean by that? He was a straight man. Why would he suit pink and white gloves? He couldn't throw them away. He scratched his head. When he brought them up, he couldn't help but wear the gloves. Involuntarily, Lin Feng was about to remove them. Yun Hu pushed the door open. He swept a glance at his attire, his gaze landing on his hands. Lin Feng's face was filled with awkwardness. How was he supposed to explain the origins of the gloves to a gay? In the end, it was just a glove, not a condom. Why couldn't he explain it? It was just a little pink in color. Cough, I don't know which girl who has a crush on me gave it to me. Lin Feng had a serious expression on his face. I've already told them not to give me gifts all the time. Unfortunately, I'm too handsome, so I'm always troubled in this aspect. It's probably because the girls gave me the wrong bag and gave me their gloves. Yun Hu listened to him quietly. Then he placed the curry chicken he bought on the table. His light-colored trench coat was half open before he smiled slowly. The gloves were given by Captain and Little Spade. They said that this style suits you. Lin Feng, did you know how awkward it was? He had lied and was exposed on the spot. *CK. All of a sudden, Yun Hu leaned forward, his fingers touching the gloves that he hadn't had time to remove. It does suit you. Lin Feng stilled. It was too close. Ever since the competition, he hadn't been this close. The uneasiness came again. Lin Feng tilted his head to the side and took off his gloves. Yun Hu saw it but didn't say anything. He just hung the trench coat on his arm, returning to a safe distance. Come and eat, the cafeteria has a special meal today. Lin Feng was hungry too. Eating was good, there wasn't any uneasiness when he ate. When Yun Hu went to wash his hands, he opened the box and took out 2 cans of beer. Boys were always like this. They were always very rough. There was no water during the meal, so he used beer as a substitute. After Lin Feng set up the food, he saw someone walking over and lowered his head to eat. Lin Feng was still a straight man when it came to eating. He took big mouthfuls, burying his head and stuffing his food. Yun Hu first took a sip of beer, then glanced at him and frowned. You're so hungry, why didn't you order takeout? I wasn't very hungry just now. Lin Feng's cheeks puffed up when he spoke. He drank the beer and then exhaled deeply. I feel alive. Yunhu laughed. This was probably how liking someone was. As long as he was by your side, whatever he did, said or ate would be pleasing to the eye. Why are you looking at me? As Lin Feng spoke, he felt that something wasn't right. Yunhu retracted his gaze and replied nonchalantly, nothing much, the professor called for you today. *CK. It can't be. Lin Feng bit the bamboo chopsticks. Was he that unlucky? Yunhu replied. I said it for you. Lin Feng made a heart gesture. Brother, what did you say? Did you find a good excuse for me and the professor believed it? I knew that with you around, I can rely on everything. I said the truth. Yunhu took another sip of beer slowly. He said that due to your heavy extracurricular work, you will continue to skip classes and asked him to discipline you when he has time. What? There was a loud crack. The chopsticks in Lin Feng's hand dropped. Brother, are you trying to get me killed? Yunhu took another pair of chopsticks and passed it to him. It's a good thing to inherit the Lin family, but there are some people you aren't suited to interact with. You don't have to manage the company, you can learn a lot from the professor. Besides, I'll be in charge of your attendance in the future. The professor has some papers, you can sort them out. Lin Feng couldn't catch his breath. Brothers, why did everyone like to attend university? It was because of the freedom in university. What did this mean? Attendance and papers? Was he going back to his normal high school life? Moreover, the one who caused all this was his good brother. Lin Feng leaned his head against the wall. My results are really good, I don't have to go overseas. You can tell this to the professor. Yunhu watched his expression of resistance, his fingers tightening. Or do you think it's better to work at the construction site than in school? Lin Feng hesitated. That's not it. Yunhu arched a brow. Is it because of people? Who? Lin Feng didn't reply. Just then, Yunhu's phone on the table rang. The name that flashed on the screen was not unfamiliar to him. It had been this number before he left the country, and it was still the same number now. That boy. Lin Feng watched as Yunhu picked up the phone. He didn't seem to have anything to hide. What is it? Lin Feng didn't hear the voice on the other side. Because he could not stand the situation, he simply stood up and walked away under the pretext of grabbing another can of beer. His head felt heavy, and he didn't know what he was thinking. He clearly wanted to take a beer, but in the end, he took out a bag of spicy sticks. What was going on? Lin Feng looked at the things in his hands and estimated that it was about time before he walked back. Sure enough, when he sat back in his chair and picked up his chopsticks, Yunhu had already hung up. You eat first, I'm going out for a bit. Lin Feng grunted in acknowledgement. He lowered his head and stuffed another mouthful of rice into his mouth. Then he added, I might go out later too. Take the key with you. Yunhu glanced at him. Where are we going? Lin Feng thought to himself, you're going out on a date, why do you care where I'm going? The report should have been submitted some time ago. Yunhu knew it was about the Lin Corporation and he knew who was in charge of Lin Feng. Didn't I say to stay in school? Lin Feng placed the beer in his hand down. I think it's better outside, I'll tell the professor. Yunhu tightened his grip on the phone. You think it's better outside? Heh, I'm being a busybody. Lin Feng was annoyed by the sound of the phone. No, everyone thinks differently, right? You're so smart, so you'll definitely be suitable in school. I'm different. It's not like you don't know that I've always been slow in this aspect. With a personal system to guide me, I can grow faster. Plus, the company can't wait for me that long. So, you think I can't bring you along? Yunhu tilted his head and seemed to smile. Lin Feng didn't want the atmosphere to be too tense. Firstly, the competition had just ended, and secondly, Huzi had just returned. Lin Feng glanced at Huzi's phone screen. All right. Don't you have to go out? I can handle my matters. I'm not a child anymore. Basically, this kind of excuse. It could be said to be a complete rejection. Yunhu's hand fell to the side, his eyes looking at the person standing in front of him. Sometimes he really wanted to ask a certain someone. You can't accept a man. Or you simply can't accept me. But he couldn't ask such a question. Because once he asked, it would be equivalent to forcing everything into a corner. Since he had already told him. This time, he wouldn't be like the previous time. He was determined to turn him gay. So, no matter what, he wouldn't retreat just like that. We'll talk about this when I come back. Before Yunhu left, he reached out and caressed Lin Feng's head. Lin Feng was a little stunned. When the door closed, he couldn't eat anymore. What was this? Didn't Yunhu know how to keep a distance? Or was it because he had completely put him back in the position of a good brother? Hence, he wouldn't be so careful with his actions. Lin Feng threw himself onto the bed. He didn't turn on the lights as the sky gradually darkened. That phone number appeared in his mind again. It seemed it was better to move out. If he didn't move out, the direction was getting more and more wrong. Perhaps it wasn't something wrong with Yunhu. It was him. What exactly did this F** get up feeling mean? Lin Feng raised his hand and placed it on his forehead. He told himself. Things had already come to this stage. It was already useless to say that he regretted it. The competition was also over. It was already the second half of his third year. The school wouldn't say anything even if he moved out. If the professor said it seriously, he would get permission. Everything was fine. He was still greedy for the gentleness that belonged to him in the past. Not long ago, he didn't have the right to have it anymore. Those two people were very good. He could only say, they probably weren't fated in this life. They were destined to be in the position of brothers. It wasn't that the timing wasn't right. It was just that the timing wasn't right. In this world, it was the easiest thing to regret. It was probably because you were determined to turn gay. Chapter 1396. Lin Feng didn't wait for Yunhu to come back. He found an excuse, sent a message and went home. When Yunhu received the message, his eyes dimmed. The boy looked at it. It's him. Yunhu kept his phone, his voice calm. I've arranged everything for you. Look for Director Xiao when you get there. Don't appear here again. The boy wanted to have something with Yunhu, but he realized that the person who asked him to act was too hard to get close to. No, it wasn't just hard to get close to. He had never intended to have anything to do with any boy other than that person. After the act, the boy realized it. Hence, after receiving the money, he was well behaved. This time, it was something they had agreed on beforehand. But the boy didn't understand why this person wanted him to go out of town. Mr. Yun, can I ask when I can come back? Yunhu glanced at him. I said don't appear here again. The boy paused, feeling the impatience. In reality, Yunhu's temper wasn't good to anyone. Only Lin Feng. Most of the time, as Lin Feng had said, as the only grandson of the Yun family, he didn't care about anyone's feelings. Even if he had a good upbringing. But his nature was arrogant. That was probably what he meant. The boy didn't dare to say anything else. He knew that even though this person was a university student, with his family background, it would be easy to make him disappear from this circle. Moreover, his current boss had given him the title of VIP. After Yunhu met him, he called his good friend, his voice emotionless. Murong, and what do you mean? From what you said, did you meet him? How is it? I saw you take him away previously, so I kept an eye on him. This time, I asked him to contact you directly. Brother, you're finally enlightened. Yes, Lin Feng isn't bad, but people are straight, right? With your thoughts, he definitely wouldn't be able to understand them. Moreover, I feel that even if he understood them, it's not like he'll. Before he could finish his sentence, Yunhu interrupted him. I seem to have warned you before, don't talk about people like him in front of me. Okay, I was wrong. Murong didn't want to anger this boss. Is it because I don't like my arrangement today? This time, Yunhu laughed, but his voice was extremely cold. If you continue to arrange these messy things, you know what the consequences will be. Murong's back stiffened, and he immediately restrained his tone. Alright, I know you're being conservative. The competition is over, so what do you plan to do next? Didn't you say you wouldn't go abroad? Yunhu replied faintly, knowing that he wouldn't mess around. Stay in school. It's as simple as staying in school. Murong had long wanted to do something with this big shot. Apart from him, probably no one else knew how powerful this big shot was. He was the top student of a university, and he had never gotten that title for nothing. When it came to international discussions, those professors would always bring him along. This was a very powerful thing. Ordinary people might not be able to feel it, but businessmen would understand. To be able to attend such events, it wasn't just a matter of money and power. It was also a matter of real ability, or even top-notch ability. In addition, Yun who already had a background, so it was easy for him to get some resources. It would be a pity if such a person didn't do something. Yun who spoke on the phone as he walked up the stairs, his tone still the same. During this period of time, Murong-en's eyes suddenly turned. Haven't you always been doing that? Yun who frowned. Speak properly, what's that? Lin Corporation. Murong-en grasped the most important point. Hasn't Lin Feng been running around the Lin Corporation's construction projects recently? They seem to want to cooperate with us. How about it? Are you interested? At this moment, Yun who had already opened the door to the dormitory. It was already empty. The person who was originally sitting at the table was nowhere to be seen. It was empty as though the wind could pour in. Yun who closed the door, lowering his lids to glance at the direction of the luggage. Even there was no one there. What was this person planning to do? Hey, are you listening to me, big shot? Boss. Murong-en held the phone, not knowing what was going on over there. He wanted to raise his voice, but a voice came over. He didn't know if it was because it was winter, but it sounded cold. I'll accept the cooperation you mentioned just now. Murong-en really didn't expect it to be so easy. Although he had expected that mentioning a certain person's name would be useful. But according to his understanding, even if Yun who was a person like this, he might not be poached over. But now, although Murong-en didn't know what was going on, from a certain point of view, it was like a pie falling from the sky to him. That's great, I'll immediately go and ask the people below to loosen the conditions for them. No need. Yun who glanced at the empty luggage rack again. The conditions are the same as usual, but there's one more condition. MH. Let Lin Feng come over personally. Don't tell him that I'm in charge. Murong-en understood tacitly, all right. Don't worry, I'm doing things right. Yun who hung up the phone. He sat on the chair in the dormitory. It felt a little cold. He asked that person to wait for him. But that person took away his luggage. It was obvious that he had the intention to move out. Indeed, for people like them, they could have moved out a long time ago. They just had to apply to the professor. For third-year students, it was easier to operate this way. After all, the students of a university basically had their own set of logic when they were outside. Yun who was the professor who refused to let him go. Otherwise, just like what Murong-en had said, he would be a CEO wherever he went. Besides, who didn't know this person's face? Most importantly, he didn't want to leave. Regarding this, Murong-en was also clear about it. Firstly, it was because of Supreme Alliance. Secondly, it was because he wanted to accompany someone as simply as possible. Yun who had once said, if it wasn't for him, or if he wasn't by my side, I really don't know what kind of person I would become. When he said this, Yun who was lying on the ground. The wine bottles at his feet were all toppled. Only he was sober. Probably only people familiar with him knew this. Yun who wasn't a good-tempered person and he wasn't a kind person. Especially when he was young. The Yun family was worried that he was too stubborn and would become a bad person when he grew up. Indeed, Yun who seemed calm but he could play with any kind of people. Old Master Yun had once said, if this child was raised well, he would be a political talent. If he wasn't raised well, he would become the biggest headache for the Yun family. If he hated someone, he would use the most vicious methods to deal with the other party. He was polite to people, but he never really put anyone in his heart. There was no absolute concept. Until Lin Feng appeared. At that time, Lin Feng was older than him. But because of his exquisite looks, Yun who was especially patient with him the first time they met. Yun who liked beautiful things, be it objects or people. But at that time, he thought he liked Lin Feng because he was beautiful. But the more he waited, the more he realized that wasn't the case. Even if his hands were dirty from playing basketball, he didn't care. Because he was disfigured from fighting, he just wanted to beat up the person who fought with him. The two of them just had to sit together and play Super Mario. When he was 5 years old, he didn't seem to know anything. How could it be calm when boys interacted? Naturally, it was a case of you kicking me once and I kicking you once. But the next day, he would still drink a glass of milk with him. He just found this person pleasing to the eye. The more he looked, the more pleasing to the eye. So pleasing that his mother said, "It would be good if Lin Feng was a little girl. Look at how interesting it is when they are together, they even eat at the same time." Or when she was helping him put on gloves. Playing with Lin Feng again? "You child, only Lin Feng can make up with you. Old Li has been crying for 3 days. Didn't he just break one of your game controllers? You don't want to play anymore. Lin Feng has broken so many of your controllers, but I've never seen you act like this." Old Li's boy wasn't ugly, he really looked like a doll. But he still felt that the yawning kid was the cutest. Especially the way he protected him. It was unforgettable. But now, he didn't seem to be protecting him anymore. He even wanted to move out. Yun, who sat there, unsure if he was smiling or something. The corners of his lips were pressed down and he looked lonely from afar, on the other side. Mother Lin was surprised to see Lin Feng return home. "Why you back at this hour? Why did you bring so many things?" I don't have class tomorrow." Lin Feng replied vaguely. "I have a project to work on. This place is close to the company, so I came back first. I'll talk to the professor." Mother Lin looked at him. "Son, even though I think it's fine, you still have to take care of the school." "I know." Lin Feng placed his luggage. Mama Lin glanced outside again. "Are you alone?" Lin Feng removed his scarf. Mother Lin arched a brow. "Where's who? Isn't he in the same dorm as you? The two of you are so old, could it be that you had some sort of conflict?" "No, Empress Dowager." Lin Feng was helpless. "Don't keep thinking about the plot in your head. Why would I fight with him?" Mother Lin nodded. "Indeed, who has a good temper? If you fight with him, no one will play with you in the future." Lin Feng. "Who exactly is your biological son?" Mother Lin asked. "Then tell me, since you didn't fight, why did you come back alone? If I remember correctly, who should be in school now?" Chapter 1397. Mother Lin noticed that Lin Feng's condition wasn't right today. She had thought that he was really tired because he had to run to school and the company. Plus, the competition had just ended. Her son probably wanted to rest, so she didn't ask further. Lin Feng carried his luggage and threw himself onto the bed without tidying up his clothes. Before this, the Lin family had already moved out of the military courtyard. Their neighbor was no longer the Yun family. It was probably because of the gap that had always existed. That was why it was like this now. Fortunately, the competition was over. However, there was another meaning to the end of the competition. Even the interaction between the two of them was about to come to an end. In the past, they could still be connected through the competition. What could they rely on in the future? In the adult world, there had to be something. If they had met later on, perhaps the gap wouldn't have been so huge. But it was because they had grown up together. Lin Feng closed his eyes. However, it was too late to think about this. He had to maintain a suitable distance. Even if they met in the future, it would be at the club. Mother Lin glanced at the room outside the door. He fell asleep so quickly? It was probably because Lin Feng didn't have much to do. Hence, most of the time, no one would describe him as meticulous. After the competition, everyone's life was different. Shui Yaoyao was the same. She stood under the shower, wanting to wash away the scent on her body. But she realized that once something was imprinted on her, it was hard to get rid of it. Fortunately, it wasn't too late. She was basically used to it now. After living for a long time, one would get used to it. For example, she could calmly stand in front of him and put on her clothes one by one. If it was in the past, she wouldn't have dared to think about it. Her appointment with him was coming to an end. When she entered university, everything would stop. At that time, there wouldn't be so many messy things. Shui Yaoyao put on the long down jacket. She still wasn't that eye-catching. But it could be seen. Compared to before, the down jacket was a whole circle bigger. Jiang Zuo was half naked, his back leaning lazily against the headboard. His slender fingers held a cigarette. His expression couldn't be seen from this angle. But he could see her clearly. She had changed so much since he knew her. At that time, he had never even thought that she would lose weight one day. Furthermore, he had lost so much weight. Inexplicably, Jiang Zuo felt frustrated. Especially when he saw that she was still so empty after putting on the down jacket, he remembered that she only ate an apple for lunch. Was there a need for such a thing? After seeing that back view, Jiang Zuo pressed the cigarette butt into the ashtray, a faint smile in his voice. Do you intend to be like this forever? Shui Yaoyao stopped and turned around to look at him. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Thinness is beauty. Jiang Zuo was a person that others couldn't see through. It was true in the past, and it was even more so now. Shui Yaoyao's expression was indifferent. She didn't seem to be targeting him. They seemed to be like this. They couldn't quarrel. When they saw each other, they were intimate. After the intimacy, they returned to their respective homes. There would even be a scene of siblings being courteous at the dinner table the next day. Recently, even his mother had become a lot happier. The atmosphere of the Jiang family had never been better. Chapter 1398. Oh no. Shui Yaoyao put on the hood of her down jacket. I'm leaving first, wait for half an hour before you leave. It's safe this way and Uncle Jiang won't think too much. Jiang Zuo laughed, but there was no warmth in his eyes. You're different from before. You're really thoughtful now. Shui Yaoyao didn't study the meaning of his smile. She took the things. Be careful. The Jiang family needed them to be harmonious. This way, her mother's life would be much better. In reality, she didn't want to continue like this. After all, in some people's eyes, they would always be basking in the glory of the Jiang family. Shui Yaoyao didn't deny this. But she didn't play esports. Shui Yaoyao had heard the comments of people in his circle. Play esports? She's still playing at this age, girls playing esports? Like the female casters? The last sentence was always a little flirtatious. In the entertainment empire, the Jiang family held many business gatherings. Jiang Zuo didn't know why, but he suddenly figured it out. Shui Yaoyao had always understood that Uncle Jiang marrying her mother was just nostalgia. In his heart, he still liked the woman who had a similar voice and appearance to Jiang Zuo. Jiang Zuo had a good temper and Uncle Jiang was happy all day. Even such business gatherings were mostly controlled by Jiang Zuo. The people who came seemed to know her and her mother's identity. There was no disrespect. There was no respect. Of course, there were still some gossip. The daughters he knew, her classmates, would always say a few words when they saw her. Most of them were to wake her up, not to have wishful thinking and not to think that she could do anything just because she was close. Shui Yaoyao didn't speak. If she had a choice, she wouldn't want to return to the Jiang family. Compared to these occasions, she would rather stay in Uncle Yin's internet cafe. There was cocoa, feng shang, and Uncle Yin's various instant noodles. It was a warmth that wasn't present in the Jiang family. Very few people cared about her studies. Other than Coco, who would nod her head and say, "Really, why is it so difficult? Are all the questions in the country so difficult? My head is about to explode." As a young master who grew up overseas, he wasn't used to the lessons in the country. Because of this, Coco even called his captain and asked pitifully if he could tutor him. As the student representative of a university, the captain had never been weak in science. "I only tutor my girlfriend." Almighty Qin's words completely froze Coco. Even now, Shui Yaoyao found the scene hilarious. Because it was rare that Almighty Qin didn't hang up the phone. He added, "Also, don't always call to disturb my relationship. Can't you guys solve this kind of small matter yourselves?" After Coco was hung up on, he posted on Weibo, "Captain, have you ever considered the feelings of us single dogs? Why is the question so difficult?" Many people were comforting her at the foot of the stairs. But what was even more heart-wrenching was that most of the fans were asking, "How did you show off? Tell us about it." Coco finally caught him, and he started to complain about his captain's usual behavior. Because it was Weibo, Bo Gio would come to take a look as well. Chapter 1399. He said he's only tutoring his girlfriend and told me not to disturb his relationship with such a small matter. What? From the punctuation, Bo Gio could tell how Coco was feeling. She didn't bother reading the comments. Instead, she glanced sideways at the Almighty beside her. He must have noticed her gaze. Chin Mo's hand paused at the red light. What is it? Nothing. As a domineering CEO, she shouldn't expose the Almighty's intentions in front of others. After all, the Almighty could be shy. Once again, little Blackie understood his master's thoughts. He couldn't help shaking. It was puzzled. The devil had so many cars, but he didn't drive them. Why did he choose it? As a world-class smart sports car, little Blackie needed a companion to have a good chat with. Ever since it came to China, it realized a benefit. As long as it went online to complain, there would be people who would complain along with it. That was a good point. Little Blackie had already thought it through. Once they reached the destination, it would secretly log on to its own network and share its master's daily life with the netizens. Seriously, don't underestimate its account. A lot of people were already paying attention to the post it posted. Some were even asking if it had a follow-up post. Are you hungry? Chin Mo stopped the car. The reason he asked was because she was whistling restlessly again. Bo Gio smiled. I'll get some. This was a good spot. There was a Burger King next door. Bo Gio wore a mask. She relied on her long legs and didn't take a detour. Instead, she used the stairs that were half the height of a human to climb over. Chin Mo frowned when he saw her from the car. But her actions were indeed handsome. The black coat carried the wind as it fell. The few girls who had just come out of the Burger King were staring at the youngster walking towards them. Long legs, slim waist, and silver hair with a mask. They couldn't help trying to guess her identity. Their first thought was that she was an internet celebrity. But she didn't look like one. After she entered, she took out her wallet and didn't remove her mask the entire time. Instead, she bought a bunch of things. From his voice, they couldn't tell which streamer he was. It's such a pity that such a big brother doesn't dabble in the internet. The girls still wanted to find some clues. The youngster had already bought the good stuff. With a takeaway paper bag in one hand and a cup of unsweetened coffee in the other, he walked over. They still couldn't tell who it was. She just felt that her side profile was enough to make one's imagination run wild. What would happen if he took off his mask? Bo Gio noticed that someone was looking at her. She didn't avoid it. Her eyes curved into a smile. In an instant. Then he heard an awe sound behind him. Someone also took a photo and posted it on Weibo. Today, I saw a young man with silver hair and a black mask. He climbed the stairs to buy a burger. Although I didn't see his face, I felt that he was very handsome. The words, black mask and silver hair, quickly caught everyone's attention. After all, he had left a message with Coco. Now that he saw the keywords appear, he couldn't help but smile. Many people's first reaction was, am I thinking too much? Why does this back view resemble my big spade so much? Definitely. In the game, it's normal to climb over stairs to buy a burger in real life. The more I look at him, the more he looks like my Almighty Z. Almighty Z? Who was that? The girl who posted the photo didn't play games, so she didn't know anything about esports. But that was it. Strangely, the number of shares on her Weibo suddenly increased to a frightening level. Many people were at her, asking for her coordinates. Of course, there were also sober ones. I just came back from that place. I'm so sad, I feel like I've missed my big spade. It's probably too late to go over now. Am I the only one who noticed that Big Spade was holding a cup of coffee besides the Coke? He must have bought it for Almighty Chin. He must have bought it for Almighty Chin +1. Almighty Chin always lets his girlfriend buy things while he stays in the car. Let his girlfriend take revenge for him. Let his girlfriend fly him. Facepalm, I don't want to say anything about Almighty Chin's relationship. As a senior Chin fan, I just want to say, Big Spade, you can't return it. The fans' worries didn't come true. After all, what kind of person was young Master Chin? How could he give someone the chance to return him? He asked someone to get out of the car to buy things, more or less because his phone kept ringing. And the caller wasn't anyone else, it was his mother, Movie Queen. It wasn't just the phone. There were many WeChat messages. Why isn't your household registration book in the family? I received a call from Country Y today, saying that they want to have a marriage alliance with our family. I asked your father and you actually agreed. You actually agreed, Shinemo. Let me tell you, if you dare to abandon my Gio, you're finished, let me tell you. Movie Queen and had always been elegant, but no matter how elegant she was, when her son didn't even reply to her messages, the anger in her heart rose layer by layer. This cold boy, was he courting death? Her manager was trembling at the side, reminding her softly, there's media, there's media. How could she still care about the media at this time? She took a deep breath, her beauty in full swing. Continue to call him. The manager was also from a branch of the Chin group, what else could he say? That was Boss Chin in the past, he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Now, under Movie Queen Anne's instructions, he had already called him no less than 3 times. Why did Boss Chin knock off normally today? As his subordinates, it was getting more and more surreal. Boss Chin might be busy. The manager maintained his smile, finding an excuse. He was afraid that calling a 4th time would disrupt his boss's date. After all, he had personally seen his boss leave with Miss Gio. His expression was indescribable, even though he was smiling, there wasn't a hint of a smile in his eyes. Not only that, but the most important thing was that he had specifically sent a message to them to inform them. In the future, he would remove some of the red tape in the company. For example, gifts, he hoped that there wouldn't be any more. 23333, he was obviously jealous. Movie Queen and didn't know what had happened before, but she had to clarify what a marriage alliance was. The other party was a family with ancient royal blood. Chapter 1400. Movie Queen and thought about it. Just then, the phone in her hand rang. The caller ID showed that it was the cold kid from her family who never picked up her calls. Movie Queen and raised her own son and was very familiar with his ways. She didn't appear to be in a hurry. Instead, she prepared to ask him slowly, "What do you intend to do?" "Madam, and I don't understand you." Chi Nemo looked through the car window, his eyes landing on a figure not far away under the light. Just that one sentence. The elegant Movie Queen and adjusted her shawl. "Don't feign ignorance. Your grandfather said that someone came for a social gathering and you agreed." Chin Mo was nonchalant, calculating the time a certain someone would be back. "NH. Which family's son was like this? Just an MH?" Movie Queen and really wanted to call her husband. Chin Mo seemed to have guessed his mother's thoughts. "Before you complain to my dad, you can ask grandfather which family is the one hosting the event." "Why didn't I ask?" "He said it was an ethnic Chinese who left China before the founding of the country. He has an ancient noble bloodline from Country Y." The more Movie Queen spoke, the more her imagination ran wild. "You bunch of capitalists, socializing for the sake of profits." Chin Mo knew that his mother had shifted her resentment towards his father onto him. "You didn't investigate carefully, you can ask grandfather and you will know why I agreed." Movie Queen narrowed her eyes, changing the topic immediately. "Why don't we have your household register at home?" "I gave it to your little male almighty," Chinemo said casually. Movie Queen thought for a moment, going straight to the point. "What does giving the household register have to do with the socialization? Your little male almighty needs a hint before he acts." Chin Mo didn't deny it, revealing more information. Movie Queen felt that there was a trap behind it. "Are you trying to trick Gio again?" "Madam, and watch your words, we are mutually in love." Chin Mo glanced out of the car window, his long fingers tapping on the steering wheel. "Alright, she's coming back soon. You can ask about the socialization. Also, Mizzen, I don't mind if you become a fan of your little Prince Charming, But don't be too ostentatious. For example, don't show up at the gift-giving events that are organized. You know your own influence. If you show up, the attention will be too much. Movie queen and was indignant. You make it sound as though I'm troubling you. I'm helping my male idol gain popularity. In the future, the Chin Group will create a few more sales channels for anti-fans like you. You can invest your money in your little almighty, Chin Mo said casually. Movie queen and tilted her head and glanced at her manager. Your boss Chin even wants to earn money from me, his mother. Goddess, the media. Chin Guan's agent broke out in a cold sweat. He had never seen anyone with more personality than Boss Chin. Chin Mo returned to the original topic. Don't call again, it's better not to let her know about this. I'm still waiting for her to marry your son. Movie queen and the agent didn't know what to say anymore. He just wanted to cover his face. He really didn't expect Boss Chin to be such a person. After movie queen and hung up the phone, she was extremely happy. When the corners of her lips curved up, she was incomparably beautiful. My cold little boy finally got it, so that's what happened. The agent exclaimed in surprise. He wanted to ask movie queen and, wait a moment. Didn't you hear what Boss Chin said about waiting for her to marry him? To put it simply, he was going to marry her. The sole heir of the Chin Group. He was chased by countless fans. The most popular, most valuable, most profitable, and most good-looking almighty Chin. He was going to marry someone? Marry someone? The agent felt that he needed some time alone. Really, in the days to come, Boss Chin was going to marry someone else. Who was going to manage the Chin Group? And the business circle, the internet, the media, the agent could almost predict such news. What kind of explosive consequences it would cause. He still wanted to ask Boss Chin how he could say something like, waiting to marry, so naturally. From movie queen Anne's words, it seemed like he had set a trap for him. Shameless, he was really shameless. As a top smart sports car, Little Blackie also wanted to say the same thing. He had been listening to the entire call from the devil. No wonder he had sent his master his household register. It was a premeditated plan. His master had actually thought that the other party was shy. Little Blackie really didn't know what to say. The scariest thing was that the devil could even see through the car's thoughts. The first thing he said after hanging up was, I guess I have to erase your data. Little Blackie watched as his slender fingers started to tap on the screen. He couldn't help hugging his chubby body. With my loyalty to Master, I won't say anything if Master doesn't ask. Oh. Chin Mo arched a brow. That's really loyal. It's fine if you don't say anything. She's here. Little Blackie immediately shut up. The moment Bojio stepped into the car, she felt that the atmosphere inside was a little strange. But very quickly, she was tempted by the Almighty's next move. His fingers caressed her face, a smile on his face. The Almighty had never smiled so gently before. Are you cold? Chin Mo was really trying to warm her face. Bojio wasn't that arrogant. She removed half of her mask, revealing her handsome face. I'm not cold, my body is cold. Don't hug me. The colder you are, the more I want to hug you. Chin Mo caressed her head. With that, Bojio threw the strange atmosphere to the back of her mind. Besides, Chin Mo didn't start the car immediately. Instead, he opened a hamburger and fed her while letting her drink the cola. From time to time, he would laugh softly. When he laughed, even the moonlight outside would pale in comparison. Xiao He watched helplessly as its master fell into the path of the other party's seduction. The screen flickered twice. He had a premonition. His future days would be like this forever. Little Blackie realized it. The devil was really good at fighting for attention. He didn't just do what he wanted. Another point was that whatever its owner liked, it would come up with its own set. Otherwise, until now, his master would never have thought that he was shy. Just a moment ago, his master had leaned over to kiss him. He used a chicken wing to block his master's mouth. Then he smiled and landed on his master's forehead. Eat properly. A little vixen playing hard to get. No wonder his master, who was so smart, fell into his hands. This devil? Little Blackie hadn't finished complaining. He glanced at the rearview mirror again. That was terrifying. Chin Mo retracted his gaze when he saw that the car was obedient. He used a tissue to wipe the corner of her mouth. No matter how he looked at her, she was still the most pleasing to the eye. Bo Gio didn't know that she had understood the Almighty's point without doing anything. She was kissed again. She was elated. There was something else she was happy about. She had received a message when she was buying the hamburger. Grandfather Butler had sent her the message. The content was simple. Everything is ready. I'm now proposing marriage to the Yin family. Proposing marriage? Bo Gio realized that she loved hearing this word. And once Grandfather Butler was done, she could start on her side. Chin Mo didn't know what she was smiling about. There was obviously a mischievous smile on her face. On the other hand, Grandfather Butler was rather formal. A tuxedo was a must, and he had brought along his most sincere cooperation. Everyone knew that Old Master didn't meet people casually. The Yin family was different from the Chin family. All their business was overseas, and they had been doing business for a long time. People often said that wealth didn't last 3 generations, but this had never happened in the Yin family. Now, it was movie queen and Old Master and had tried to stop her when she wanted to enter the entertainment industry. But because of that kid from the Chin family, Old Master had relented. After all, that person had said that no matter what, someone would inherit the Yin family's business. To say that this point had really been achieved. Especially his grandson, who had been outstanding since he was young. Many people wanted to get to know him. Most of them were socialites, both domestically and overseas. But Old Master knew better than anyone else. That kid had always had someone in his heart. It was also because of that person that Old Master had never asked about his grandson's marriage. Because he knew better than anyone else how long his little grandson had waited outside the door with the amulet when he had moved back from overseas. Honestly speaking, that was the first time he had seen his grandson in such a vulnerable state. His mother had been worried that his grandson didn't want to return. In reality, it wasn't just that he didn't want to return. It was that his little friend had suddenly disappeared. That was also the first time he had heard his grandson ask such an innocent question. At that time, his grandson had been really young. No matter how young he had only reached his waist. He had raised his exquisite little face. "Grandfather, do you think she will come back?" Old Master had been in the business world for many years. With one look, he could tell that the family next door wouldn't be coming back. Everything had been moved away. It was as though she had never lived here before. The connection had been cut off so suddenly. Something must have happened. Old Master knew it clearly. But he still told his equally rational grandson a small lie. She likes you, so she will definitely come back. But I quarreled with her. The little grandson was like a little prince. He stood under the moonlight, still wearing that little suit. When he pouted, his eyes were a little red. She is so stupid, she doesn't even know how to use the blanket at night. She always likes to climb over the wall. When she plays games, she doesn't care about anything else. She doesn't even know how to roll up her sleeves when she brushes her teeth. At that moment, Old Master finally understood. The child next door. What exactly did she mean to his grandson? That grandson of his was very cold to everyone. He had never liked to talk since he was young. But he had said so much in one go. With every sentence he said, the emotions in his eyes deepened. Old Master couldn't bear to do that. But the Bo family had a special identity and many things couldn't be controlled. Originally, at the start, he had thought that the child would forget after a month. But looking at his grandson who wasn't even willing to eat, Old Master had been really anxious. It was impossible to contact the Bo family. Hence, he had brought his grandson back to the country. He wanted to leave that place with memories. It would definitely be better for his grandson. But still, there was nothing. At that time, his grandson seemed to have been completely plated. He had become normal. Perhaps it was obvious that the gap between him and his peers was getting bigger and bigger. Very few people had seen him smile again. His personality became more and more indifferent. He didn't even have a little willfulness anymore. Old Master had always felt guilty about this. If he hadn't brought his grandson overseas, this situation wouldn't have happened. Just like that, 1 year passed. 2 years passed. Old Master and had thought that time was enough. When people came to befriend him, he would see if there were any cute children of the same age. That way, his grandson might get better. But very quickly, he also realized that no matter how cute the children were, his grandchildren were all the same. He didn't have those people in his eyes. Except for those 2 or 3 of his good buddies. When little girls came, he wouldn't even lift his eyes. At that time, there were tomboys who liked to climb over the wall. The girls raised in the military compound were more or less tougher than the girls outside. But his grandson was still indifferent. Maybe he thought he was indifferent. Grandpa clearly remembered what his grandson had said before he went to bed that day. "Grandpa, don't worry. She never climbs over the wall like this. I'm always worried that she'll fall off the wall, but she doesn't worry and doesn't look at anyone. You said that she likes me so much, so she'll definitely come back. I'm still waiting." Old Master had never thought that a boy who wasn't even 10 years old would say such a thing. He didn't sleep for the entire night. When he woke up the next day, during breakfast, he treated his grandson the way he would treat an adult. Because Old Master knew that he couldn't treat his grandson, who had a heaven-defying IQ and EQ like a child. Many things are complicated. Sometimes, our wishes might not come true. You and Gio are too young. If she doesn't come back, you can't keep waiting, right? He looked up from the dining table. His little face didn't have any edges yet, but he vaguely looked like a man. "If she doesn't come back, I'll look for her. It's not a big deal. If I can't find her in a year, I'll look for her for 2 years. If I can't find her in 2 years, I'll look for her for 3 years. After a long time, I will find her. If I really can't find her, I'll stand in the most dazzling place for her to see. I taught her the Chinese characters, she can't just eat them." Old Master didn't say, "What if she forgot about you?" But what happened next was beyond his expectations. It wasn't that she forgot about him. It was that his grandson forgot about the person he had been looking for. Every time Old Master thought of this, his heart would feel terrible. He couldn't help but feel terrible. He forgot about the person he liked so much. How would his grandson feel? This thought made him unable to sleep. He actually saw a certain symbol again. Chapter 1401. 3 years after the Bow family had moved away. They had met before. He was a qualified butler. He was definitely first class in terms of etiquette. The old man with foreign blood took off the gentleman's hat on his head. He was dressed in a well-ironed suit and bowed in a standard manner. "Mr. N, we meet again after so many years. You are still as elegant as before." Old Master could almost call out his name at a glance. The assistant standing at the side had never seen his chairman like this. It was obvious that Old Master was emotional. His hand that was holding onto the dragon head walking stick was trembling. "You are still here. Not only am I still here, but young Lord is also here." He smiled very sincerely. One could see the feelings in it. It was as if they had met good friends. The assistant watched as the butler, who seemed to have walked out from the 19th century, walked to the chairman's side. "To be honest, Mr. N, I came this time to help our young lord with something." Although Grandfather Butler did not have Chinese blood, when he spoke in Mandarin his pronunciation was very good. It was just a little exotic. When young Lord was young, she was taken care of by Mr. N's family, especially young Master Chin. Young Lord has always remembered how well he treated young Lord. Although I haven't seen it with my own eyes, ever since young Lord moved away, almost all the topics were about young Master Chin. Now that they have grown up and are together again, I wonder if Mr. N's words from back then still count. The two families are on good terms. You are the one who wants to propose? Previously, Old Master had only received a visit letter. He didn't know who the person was. He had wanted to ignore it. But when he thought about it, how could such a thing happen? Which family would mention the N family when proposing? They had mentioned his grandson. This was something that only a bear's heart and leopard's gall would do. But what Old Master didn't expect was that his grandson had actually agreed to it after hearing about it. Agreed? This wasn't like him at all. In the past, he had always been indifferent when someone brought up this matter. Not to mention agreeing. As smart as old Masterin was, he immediately thought of something. His grandson knew the person who had written the visit letter. Otherwise, when he had received his grandson's call and asked him to come over to explain this matter, there wouldn't have been a smile in his voice. He still remembered his grandson's reaction when he heard the news. Really? He came to propose. Then he kept laughing. He kept laughing. It was so funny that even he, the grandfather, found it interesting. Hey kid, are you feeling so good? At that time, his business partner was standing next to him and looking at him. Grandpa An's face was both helpless and happy. It had been a long time since he had seen his grandson like this. Just like a little kid. Yes, it's very beautiful. Grandfather, please agree for me. I'll be back soon. It was in the afternoon. It was already nighttime. The person who proposed marriage had arrived and revealed his true colors. However, old Master and could never have imagined that it would be an old acquaintance. At this moment, he immediately understood. No wonder his grandson was so happy. When he picked up the call, he could clearly hear the faint smile on the other end of the line. So it was her. In that case, Grandpa An seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes suddenly reddened. My grandson's memory has returned, right? Along with his childhood memories. Grandpa An had always been a person who could control his emotions, but at this moment, he seemed to be completely unable to control himself. It was an indescribable feeling. His throat was blocked, and he couldn't say a word. Grandpa An could only use a light cough to relieve himself. It's really great. Yes, it's great. Perhaps only those who knew what the two children had experienced would sigh like this. The old butler smiled. Our young master values young Master Chin too much. This time, she insisted on following young Master Chin when he went to carry out his mission. After bringing young Master Chin back with injuries, she even hid him at home. You know, she has always treated young Master Chin like a treasure. I don't know what kind of agreement she made with them, but she just wants to keep young Master Chin. When Grandpa An heard this, a myriad of thoughts ran through his mind. So it was that child who brought him back. His grandson's mission had always been confidential. Even his powerful and influential grandfather didn't know about it. But the higher the level, the more dangerous it was. He also had business friends in the Golden Triangle who told him roughly what had happened. Grandpa An couldn't sleep for many days. He was afraid that his grandson had been among the flames that had exploded in the river back then. Later, when he couldn't contact his grandson no matter what, there was news from that side. It said that Er's emotions were very unstable. With the hypnosis activated, there was a high chance that he would become an internationally wanted criminal. He was as smart as he was dangerous. When Grandpa An heard the news, his heart was filled with bitterness. He was such an outstanding grandson. How could he fall to such a state? Was there no one who could trust him? At that time, Grandpa An went to the Chin family. Only then did he realize that it wasn't that he didn't trust him, but that there was already a substantial danger. Other than his biological parents, who dared to stay by his side. On the other hand, the soldiers he had brought out were clamoring to see their boss. But it was to no avail. Someone who could find him, protect him, and still choose to stay by his side at such a time. He heard that it was the Fu family. How did it become? Grandpa An frowned. Then the Fu family is, regarding this point, the old butler had already thought of an excuse before he came. After Master passed away, some organizations have been trying to destroy the balance in the hacker world or use hackers to do something. If young Lord disguised herself as a high school student, it would be easier for her to hide. She also knows that young Master Chin is in this city, so she came here. Grandpa An had seen the photos of the youngster on the internet. The more he looked at them, the closer he felt. Now that he thought about it, it was no wonder that he felt so close. Since that's the case, I have no reason to disagree. Grandpa An chuckled. But, Eric, you are wrong again. Here, the word marriage proposal is used by the man to the woman, not by the woman to the man. At this moment, the two of them had already sat down. The assistant handed them tea. The old butler took it elegantly and took a sip before saying, "Mr. I am not wrong." This was all mentioned by young Lord. She said that she used all her pocket money to buy her little Princess Jean. Grandpa also agreed at that time. She can't go back on her words now. Grandpa paused. He didn't expect that after so many years, he would hear this sentence again. This made his mind immediately recall the scene when they had just arrived overseas. Words for the readers. Chapter 1402. Los Angeles, located in southwestern California, was the second largest city in the United States, often referred to as the City of Angels. The city was located in the Mediterranean climate zone, with a mild climate. Generally speaking, it was dry all year round with little rain, only slightly more rain in winter. The sun was bright all year round, and there was very little chance that the temperature would be below freezing point, so the chance of seeing snow was very rare. But on this day, it actually snowed in the city. The snow at night was especially beautiful, wrapping the trees in silver makeup. Especially the pumpkin car lights in the fence. The old European-style buildings, with warm lights and Christmas trees everywhere. There were also some people in fur coats hurrying by. They rarely had black hair, but they all had different colors of hair, white skin, and high noses. They looked like the magicians described in Harry Potter. When the scenery became a fairy tale. The people in the scenery were even more mysterious. Under the street lights, a Huaxia Hongqi car was parked outside the fence. It was rare to see this brand of car in this place. The car looked a little old-fashioned. But those who knew cars would understand. The more old-fashioned a Hongqi car was, the more valuable it was. No, it was not just valuable. It was more of a status symbol. After all, in that era, to be able to drive a Hongqi car and drive it to Losh was probably the only one who came from Ange. The car door was opened by a professional butler. The butler was still wearing high-quality white gloves. He was a young man with blonde hair. Even his words were in English. "Sir, we're here." The person in the car did not get out quickly. Instead, he turned his head and pointed out the window to the little boy beside him. "This is where we will live from now on. How about it? Do you like it?" The little boy was wearing a white down jacket with a hood. There was a circle of silver-white fur at the collar. He wore a black mask on his face. His face could not be seen clearly, only his voice could be heard. It was a little childish and a little cold. Yes. Just one word. This was obviously a little too quiet for a 4- or 5-year-old boy. But the old man in the car seemed to be used to it. He reached out and rubbed the little boy's head. "Then, shall we get out?" The little boy followed the butler down the stairs. He did not let the butler help him with his luggage. Instead, he held the handle of the small suitcase with one hand. This was the first time the foreign butler had seen such a polite and mysterious child. He looked down and said, "Wow, this box is really cute." The little boy followed his gaze and looked over as well. The little panda's suitcase. It didn't match his overall temperament. But things like suitcases. It had never been something a little boy could control. After all, he had a very girlish mother. At this time, the old man laughed. He didn't look like a grandfather at all, except for the white hair on his temples. "There's also an Asian kid living next door. Young master, you don't have to feel bored here. I'm sure you'll be able to get along well." The foreign butler thought the boy was being reserved. But when he looked sideways and saw the boy standing under the light, he immediately felt that he was thinking too much. He had never seen a boy like this. He obviously didn't have beautiful golden hair, but he was like a little prince. Standing there, he suddenly thought of a Huaxia poem he had learned. "Young master is like jade." His hair was like fine silk, so black that it was unforgettable. Although his face was covered, his eyes were very deep, as if they could sway the sky full of snow. Not to mention his long, dense, and slightly curly eyelashes, which gave people a sense of elegance. The foreign butler sighed again. Eastern children were really too good-looking. In fact, the foreign butler didn't know. He wasn't the only one who was addicted to this beauty. There was also someone who was studying her little keyboard. On this day, someone wanted to go out and play. But after thinking about it, there was nothing fun outside. It wasn't as fun as taking things apart. After all, she had beaten up all the children nearby. It was really not easy to find someone who was willing to play with her. For this, she was punished to stand. She agreed to stand. It was too boring to stand without anything in her hands. She simply hugged her little keyboard and stood obediently while admiring the rare snow scenery outside. There was even a tiger's tail behind her. She didn't expect that there was something more beautiful than the snow in this world. Could that person be Snow White? Someone searched for the fairy tale knowledge in his mind. He looked at his face. Then he looked at the little figure outside. It was Snow White and looked better than her, like a doll. The little suitcase was also very cute. That was a panda, right? It was something that only existed in Huaxia. She heard her father talk about it. It was really cute. Even the little princess's suitcase was cuter than hers. Thinking of this, someone looked at the small square in her hand in disdain. Well, it couldn't compare at all. The little boy standing in the snow still didn't know that he was being targeted and that the other party treated him as a princess. The word, princess, to explain it in depth, was to treat him as a woman. The old man was probably afraid that the little boy wouldn't be used to it, so he took a step forward and patted his shoulder. Well, your parents will take you back soon. Andy also said that there is an Asian child next door. He is from Grandpa's friend's house. You don't need to be shy, that child will definitely get along well with you. When the little boy lowered his head, his eyelashes fell, forming a shadow. The old man couldn't understand his grandson's emotions. After all, this child had been like this since he was young. It was too worrisome. Go in. He was a little boy after all. He still let people hold his hand. But the little boy's eyes were still dark and calm. One hand was held by his grandfather, and the other hand was pulling the suitcase. They walked into the yard where they were about to start a new life. There was a strong American style everywhere. Ordinary children might like it very much. But the little boy was as usual and didn't show any expression of surprise. Even the pumpkin lantern car and cake in the yard didn't arouse his interest. The old man thought that it would be better to wait until tomorrow. He heard that the child next door was very lively. He hoped that he could inspire his grandson. Chapter 1403. Dad. This was the first time a certain someone called him. The man who was curled up on the sofa with a comic book covering his face ignored her. A certain someone ran over, stood still and flipped open the comic book. Mr. Bo, I need to tell you something. What is it? The man yawned lazily. He didn't look like a father at all. Did you break someone's glass or bully a child to tears? Little Bojio, I've told you many times, you have to be serious. I remember that you should be standing in front of the window and reflecting on your mistakes. I was thinking about it at first. Bojio had a serious expression. But my soul was hooked. The man smirked. His handsome face and black hair gave off an unruly vibe. I don't believe you. Dad, I think we should have a good talk. Bojio's eyes widened. Her little tiger's tail was still wagging. The man held his chin nonchalantly. Thank God, you finally have the awareness to have a good talk with me. What do you want to talk about? Talk about the children you beat up ever since you moved here. They are older than me, 3 years older. They aren't children, I'm the child. Bojio caressed her cat ears. It's a little embarrassing to talk about it. The man leaned back, his long and slender legs crossed. Embarrassed? Baby, you don't have this word. Tell me, what do you want? Bojio thought for a moment. She ran to the side and then ran back with a piggy bank in her hands. I want to buy something. You have to tell me about such a small matter? The man stood up, his fingers touching his daughter's piggy bank. Lord Gio, there seems to be the black card I gave you in there. When did his daughter become so generous? Bojio's little face was serious. It's expensive. Although she wasn't sure how much it was worth. But it looked quite expensive. Bojio glanced at the room next door. It was a pity that the little princess hadn't come out after entering. When the man heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Perhaps it was because he was too handsome and had a kind of evil aura. Even though he was wearing a white shirt, he still gave off a beautiful impact. You can ask your mother about this. I can't decide the family's money. Don't forget, I'm a man who lives off a woman. Sometimes, little Bojio admired her father. In front of her mother, he was like a little puppy. When her mother wasn't around, in the next second, he seemed to have changed into a completely different person. Her father said that this was a little secret between the two of them and that she couldn't tell her mother. Mom earned money to support the family, and they were responsible for acting cute. Little Bojio had no objections. Anyway, her father was already an adult and could still act cute. She was a 5-year-old child, so it was not a big deal for her to wear tiger pajamas. When is Mom coming back today? When Bojio asked, she poked her face. It was a little itchy. Her father had never been good at taking care of children. When he heard his daughter's question, his handsome face was filled with resentment. 11 p.m. Let's cook ourselves. Come, Lord Gio, let's play a game. Whoever loses will have to cook instant noodles. How about that? I'm not guessing. Bojio hugged her wallet. I'm still addicted to beauty and can't extricate myself. I'm not in the mood to cook noodles. Chapter 1404. Little Bojio ignored her father. She wasn't in the mood to eat, especially when she heard that her mother wasn't coming back. In the end, the man stood up and stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. He glanced at the building outside and saw that the lights were on. He smiled. Lord Gio, dinner is settled. Your noodles taste terrible. I don't want to eat it. Bojio wasn't interested. The man stretched out his long legs and blocked his daughter's path. I'm not cooking. Bring the fruit platter on the table. We'll be guests next door and freeload. Next door? Bojio's eyes lit up when she heard this word. She quickly placed the fruits into the box. It wasn't right to give a fruit platter as a display gift. Even though her father was still smiling and emphasizing, that's a friend of mine who came from China despite the age gap. Bojio was still angry. That was the little princess's house. How could she just freeload? Why are you walking by yourself? The man had quit smoking ever since he had his daughter. He was wearing a mask and a black down jacket. He was so young and handsome that people would think he was a big brother. Come over and carry me? Bojio held the piggy bank in one hand and the fruit platter in the other. She looked him up and down and said seriously, I want to walk by myself. I want to give the new neighbor a good impression of being sensible and obedient. Our Lord Gio has really grown up. The man smiled again and put his hand back into his pocket. He strolled behind the little tiger, giving off an indifferent feeling. The tall and short pair seemed to have walked out of a British comic. They didn't seem like people from real life. He could faintly hear the conversation between the two of them. When your mom comes back, don't tell her that we're freeloading next door. Why? Mom will be happy if she knows that someone from the same hometown is here. But I can't even cook instant noodles. Don't I care about my reputation? Mr. Bo, it's embarrassing enough that you're living off a woman. You think I won't beat you up just because you're young and a girl? Yes. Bojio wagged her little tiger tail. Mr. Bo looked at the mop and raised one hand. His voice was lazy and his side profile was very handsome in the snow. TSK, little girl, your skin is a little thick. It's hereditary. Bojio turned with a serious expression. I inherited it from you. Mr. Bo didn't think much of it. That's why you're doing so well. All right, I'm going to press the doorbell. Please remember your persona. A conversation between father and daughter. He didn't expect to be overheard. The one who heard the conversation was the little boy who had brought the sled in from the side door. It was too cold outside, but he didn't wear a jacket. It was probably just a casual action. The little boy didn't like to eavesdrop. Rather than saying that he didn't like it, it would be more accurate to say that he didn't care what others said. Even so, he paused for a moment as he picked up the sled. After all, the conversation between the father and daughter was different from ordinary people. The little boy had never interacted with a father and daughter like this before, so he couldn't help but raise his eyes and glance at them. But it was only a matter of a glance. Very quickly, he closed the door. He looked at his grandfather, who wasn't far away, instructing the butler to prepare for tonight's dinner. He asked him how well he wanted the steak. The little boy was thinking about whether he should tell his grandfather that there were two people standing outside. In the next second, the doorbell rang. The doorbell rang. It was still snowing outside. Old Master and was still wondering who would come at this time. The butler had already walked over. "Sir, do you want to open the door?" Old Master nodded. The butler walked over and pulled open the silver door handle with his slender fingers. Big snowflakes poured in along with the whistling north wind. An adult and a child appeared outside the door just like that. It was probably because the pajamas the little one was wearing were too eye-catching. Old Master saw a little tiger at first glance. Her pure black eyes were filled with intelligence as she looked inside. Her ears drooped down like a curly-eared cat. She was cute and handsome. Not to mention the slender man standing behind her. There was a faint smile on his lips. Against the moonlight, he didn't look old at all. He was as bright as the stars but with a hint of evil. "Mr. Andre, long time no see." Old Master N's eyes lit up. "Brother Bo, come in, come in." Little Bo Gio's eyes started to turn as she listened to the adult's greetings. Where was her little princess? Why didn't she see him? Just as she was thinking about this, Old Master N spoke. Old Master N said, "Emma, come over and take a look at your little friend." This was the second mistake. The smart little Bo Gio thought that little princesses were usually very shy, so they were given a name like Emma. Hence, she was even more certain that the person she saw outside the window was a girl. Little Bo Gio was so confident that she confirmed the gender of her little princess. It wasn't a fantasy at all. When she saw the figure walking towards her again, she was even more confident. The other party was wearing small panda slippers, but his pants were tight, sticking to his slender and straight calves. It was very pleasing to the eye. Moreover, he had taken off his jacket. The bright red sweater inside was like the maple leaves she had seen before. However, his skin was like the white snow that had just fallen outside. His eyes were as bright as the stars and his eyelashes were so long that even though they were so far away, the length of his pure black hair could still be seen clearly. He stood there, his black hair like splashed ink. The noble aura that came along with it reappeared in Bo Gio's eyes. The north wind blew again, responding to the bonfire inside the house and the Christmas tree outside the house. Snowflakes floated over and one of them landed on the boy's shoulder. He tilted his head and blew it gently before looking over politely. She didn't know why, but little Bo Gio felt that his gaze was too cold. However, this coldness didn't dampen little Bo Gio's enthusiasm. The fairy tale books said that there were many types of princesses. The one she met today definitely looked cold, but in reality, she was easily shy. She had to control herself later. She couldn't be too frivolous. She couldn't beat William like she did previously. She had to be patient with the little princess and speak in a gentle voice. Since she had brought her piggy bank back, she felt more confident. Anyway, she didn't want to scare him away. She had never felt that there was anyone who looked so good. The one in front of her. She wanted to bring him home as a pet. However, her dad had once said that if she saw something she liked, she had to buy it home. She couldn't take it for free. It was the same on the internet. Hence, little Bo Gio's first reaction when she saw the little princess was to hug her piggy bank. Chapter 1405. Ever since just now. This little customer had been staring at him. Chin Imo glanced down from the stare and met with a pair of distinct black and white eyes. What made him pause slightly was that those eyes seemed to only have him in them. Under the light, he saw himself in her eyes. Her eyes were quite big. This was Chin Mo's only thought. She didn't look like someone who had spoken so much just now. It seemed like she was pretending to be obedient now. He had never seen anyone pretending to be obedient like this. She looked at him and scrupulously. Chin Imo wanted to take a step forward. The child first greeted his grandfather. "Hello, Grandpa." Then she ran in front of him and pushed the piggy bank in her hands forward. Her tiger tail was still wagging. "Momo, how much are you per kilo? I'll buy you." "Buy him?" How much was he per kilo? Chin Mo frowned uncontrollably. He looked at the smiling face in front of him and took a step back. He didn't know why, but he had a premonition that his nightmare was coming. On the other hand, Mr. Bo laughed mischievously. Master Gio, you're amazing. I was wondering what you were interested in. It turns out that you were interested in your new little friend. Momo is so cute. It's normal for me to be interested in you, little Bo Gio said. She turned her head over with a serious expression. Her ears moved. It's a little shy to talk about it. Momo, can you promise me that I will treat you very, very well? Cute? When he heard this adjective, Chin Mo's little face turned slightly cold. Did this fellow misunderstand something? Cute, huh? Grandpa and laughed loudly. This is the first time I heard someone say that my MO is cute. Little Bo Gio widened her clear eyes. Didn't anyone say that in the past? That's strange. A little princess like Momo would definitely be liked by many people. Little princess? Chin Mo couldn't help but speak. At that time, he was still young and his voice wasn't as threatening as it was now. It even had the childish voice of a 5-year-old. Even though it was cold, it wasn't as imposing as before. Grandpa was stunned for a moment before he laughed even louder. Even though he knew that his grandson was outstanding, this was the first time he was treated like a little girl by a little friend. The man had a rough idea of what his daughter had done. He laughed sinisterly. It seems like our Master Gio really likes Mo, very. After little Bo Gio said this word, to show her seriousness, she looked straight at Chin Mo's face. Words for the readers. New book introduction. 3 years ago, the Supreme Alliance disintegrated. The gaming genius, Mo Bay, went into hiding. 3 years later, she disguised herself as a man and returned with her name hidden. She went from being spurned to ascending the altar again, causing the whole nation to be excited. He was handsome and had countless fans. Everyone in the esports circle knew him. When she first joined the team, he told her, "Behave yourself and don't have any improper thoughts." After her identity was exposed, he looked up from the table and stood up slowly. "Do you want to abandon me after getting married in the game?" The voice beside her ears made her feel guilty. "What else do you think I should do?" Chapter 1406. Chin Mo told himself not to be calculative with someone younger than him. He took a deep breath, lifted his legs, and was about to walk to the dining table. Who knew that the person with the big eyes would suddenly pounce on him? Before Chin Mo could react, he was pushed to the ground by her. Her little tiger claws could be seen. She scratched her head in embarrassment. "I'm sorry, Momo, I didn't expect you to be so weak. I'll control my strength next time and won't be so fierce." "Who told you about controlling your strength and being weak?" This time, Chin Mo didn't even want to breathe. But this person was like a little heater, making him want to pull her collar and throw her out. But she was too young. Her eyes were so big that it was annoying. "Get up." His tone was cold. Bo Gio tilted her head, her tiger tail wagging. "Okay." She was very obedient. This made Old Master and laugh even more heartily. But he couldn't be too enthusiastic. His grandson couldn't stand it. Old Master and pulled the little tiger to the side. "Come, Gio, sit down and eat something." With the beauty in front of her, Bo Gio had forgotten that she and her father were here for a free meal. But after Old Master An's words, she remembered the purpose of their visit. She wagged her tiger tail and sat down with Old Master An. Her father had once said that Chinese people got to know each other at the dining table. After the meal, Momo wouldn't be as shy as she was now. Chin Mo saw her round eyes staring at him. He tidied his clothes and sat down in front of the dining table according to basic etiquette. He thought that after the meal, he wouldn't have to see this little tiger that affected his emotions. But the moment he sat down, the little tiger used her 2 small hands to move the chair towards him. Then she sat back down. "Let's be closer, we can have a private conversation." Chin Mo's side profile was cold. He was naturally arrogant, like a little prince. He didn't want to speak. Bo Gio tilted her head. "Momo, did I tell you that you're very pretty? You're the first." Every word you say makes me want to throw you out. Bojio's eyes lit up. I have good taste. Chi Nemo smirked. He had changed his mind. This little tiger really needed a beating. Yes, you have good taste. Chi Nemo couldn't even tell if it was a man or a woman. He held the knife in his hand, and when he cut the steak, he used his strength subtly. On the surface, he looked noble and polite. Bojio didn't realize what she was thinking and continued to drink the water happily. Mr. Bo, who saw everything, only felt that it was interesting. He didn't intend to expose her. Instead, he picked up the wine glass in his hand and shook it twice. His movements were casual and elegant, making him look like a character that only appeared in movies. He had only taken one bite of the steak. Then, the phone beside him rang. It was a nursery rhyme. Every time this nursery rhyme was heard, Mr. Bo would be busy. This time was no exception. But he wasn't in a hurry. After taking a look, he smiled and said to Old Masterin, Misterin, I have something urgent to attend to. I might need to trouble you to take care of my Lord Gio. Old Masterin smiled faintly. Don't mention it. Go and do what you need to do. Gio can get to know Mo better here. Thank you. The man stood up and wore his trench coat. He freed one hand and caressed Bojio's head. His back view as he walked out was completely different from when he came. At this moment he seemed to be able to blend perfectly into the night. Even his eyes had turned from lazy to cold like the wind. Not to mention the evil aura that surged out when he lowered his eyes. Bojio watched him leave and then retracted her gaze. Unexpectedly, she was a little listless. This wasn't within Chin Mo's expectations. He realized that he didn't like the way the little tiger drooped her ears. Old Masterin noticed it too. He smiled and said, Gio, don't be restrained. After dinner, Mo will bring you upstairs to play. Can I? The little tiger perked up again. A pair of bright eyes turned to look at Chin Mo. Chin Mo paused and replied faintly, H. He was troubled because if he didn't agree, the little tiger would cry in front of him. Forget it. If that was the case, he might as well agree. Momo, you're such a good person. Bojio reached out and wanted to hug him. Chin Mo frowned. His little face was cold. You better keep your tiger claws. Don't force me to change my mind. Bojio looked at her hand and then at the little princess sitting beside her. She suddenly understood. Momo, I know that in China, men and women shouldn't touch each other and can't be too passionate. But don't worry, I'm a girl too. Hee, you're a girl and I'm not. There's no need to add. Chin Mo couldn't be bothered to talk to the little tiger anymore. He just wanted to finish his steak and go upstairs to read. At this point, the little tiger sitting beside him seemed to know her place. She didn't give him any more trouble. She sat at the side seriously and didn't need anyone to cut the steak for her. Even though it was a little difficult to cut the steak with her clothes on, she didn't say anything. The more Chin Mo looked at her, the more annoyed he felt. He reached out and took her plate. He moved the knife and fork. At such a young age, she already had good dining etiquette. Bojio paused. When she looked at the little princess who was cutting the steak for her, the corners of her lips couldn't help but lift. The little princess looked good even when he was cutting the steak. He wasn't as rough as her at all. Chin Mo moved his fingers. His voice was a little cold. Don't look at me. Oh. Bojio didn't look at him at first. But after a while, she couldn't help but turn her head. Momo, if I save more money, can you sell yourself to me? Chin Mo placed his knife and fork down. He opened his eyes and glanced at her. You better not ask me this question in the future. Is it because I don't have enough money? Bojio hugged the piggy bank and shook it. Chin Mo felt that it was childish to argue with an idiot. He pushed the tray in his hand forward and replied calmly, Mch. He didn't know that his perfunctory nonchalance had become something that the other party cared about. Then I'll save more money. When Bojio became serious, she didn't forget to scratch herself with her claws. Chin Mo glanced at her face. Being a germaphobe, he couldn't help it. He reached out and pushed the hair beside her ear to the side so that he could clean his eyes. He told himself that today was the only day. Once today was over, Chapter 1407. Bo Gio didn't know what the little princess she liked was thinking. But he was even willing to cut the steak for her. Her little princess should have already accepted her. This was a good thing for Bo Gio. In the past, too many people were frightened by her rudeness. The little princess was good, she didn't care about this at all. Actually, Bo Gio probably couldn't understand what Chinemo was concerned about. The steak was delicious. It was much better than instant noodles. Bo Gio wore a small scarf as she ate. She had a carefree elegance that other children didn't have. Even though it was difficult to cut the steak, she still had manners when it came to the dining table. Especially when it came to waiting for the elders. It was the same as Chinemo. Both of them waited for Old Master and to eat first before they started eating. When they put down the knife and fork, the elders would put it down first. Because of this, Grandpa liked the little tiger in front of him very much. Moreover, the way she ate, her cheeks were puffed up, giving him a sense of accomplishment when he fed her. She was a completely different type from his grandson. Chinemo watched from the side as the person ate until her stomach was full. He calmly drank a mouthful of water. She was indeed here to freeload. This trip wasn't in vain. Bo Gio didn't know that the little princess had heard the conversation between her and her father. When she saw that he was full, she put down her knife and fork, hugged her little piggy bank, and followed. The tiger's tail was still wagging. Old Master watched this scene and felt gratified. His daughter was in the career stage and his son-in-law was in the military. It was indeed beneficial for his grandson to follow him out. But at the same time, he was always worried that his childhood would be incomplete. Now, it seemed like there was a little tiger accompanying him in a foreign country. Perhaps, it would more or less ease his mind. Even though his grandson had a look of resistance on his face. But resisting was better than not saying anything at all. But that little tiger was interesting. Why did she treat his grandson as a girl? Old Master laughed again. He was probably too happy. Even when he went to the study for a video conference, he asked the butler to open a bottle of red wine. On the other side, little Bo Gio was walking up the stairs. She took the opportunity to observe the surrounding terrain and instantly felt elated. Momo, our windows are facing each other. My room is opposite you. Chinemo glanced at her and said, "Don't touch anything. You can eat the snacks on the table but don't disturb my reading." Under normal circumstances. According to the other party's personality. He was certain that he would not be able to meet these requirements. When he opened a book and read for half an hour, he was about to pour himself a glass of water. That person was still hugging his little piggy bank and sitting there quietly. His eyes were big, and he didn't eat the snacks on the table. After drinking the water, Chinemo was just about to start reading when a small heater came over to him. His fingers paused as he flipped through the book. He narrowed his eyes and turned his head to see the little tiger's sleepy expression. She probably realized that she had bumped into someone. Bo Gio suddenly woke up and shook her head. "Momo, I'm a little tired. I'll go home and sleep first. I'll come and play with you tomorrow." As he spoke, he jumped off the chair. Even his steps were a little shaky. Chinemo glanced at the lights next door that hadn't been turned on. Then he looked at the back view of the little tiger in front of him. He frowned and then said, "Mr. Bo isn't back yet." Bo Gio didn't understand what he meant. Chinemo picked up the book in his hands. "When the lights are turned on, I'll get the butler to send you back. There's a small sofa over there. Go and lie down for a while." "Okay." Compared to going home to sleep, Bo Gio was more willing to stay where the little princess was. She was afraid that she would disturb the little princess's reading. But it was her nature. Before she fell asleep, she wanted to talk. "Momo, what are you reading?" Bo Gio moved her head over. Chinemo replied, "Little Prince." After that, he didn't speak again. He left her on the sofa because she was too young. He didn't have any intention of befriending her. Bo Gio sensed his coldness as well. Her tail swayed and she started to doze off again. When Chinemo noticed her head leaning over for the second time, he frowned. He knew that with this little tiger around, he wouldn't be able to read at all. But at this moment, Grandpa pushed the door open and walked in. When he saw this scene, he was stunned. After all, His grandson had never been so close to any child before. Then he laughed softly. "Gio, it's too late. Can you stay here tonight?" Bo Gio perked up when she heard this. After a night's sleep, the little princess would get closer to her. Unlike now, when he was always cold and indifferent and a little prickly. Bo Gio lowered her head and looked at her little tiger's paws. Her excited expression was a stark contrast to the cold Chin Mo sitting beside her. Chin Mo didn't know what his grandfather was thinking. His grandfather should know that he didn't like to keep other children at home. But when he turned his head, the lights outside weren't turned on yet. The smell of milk on a certain little tiger was very strong. This meant that she was really small. Even if she was the same age as him. Girls and boys were also different. She shouldn't be that strong. Chin Mo turned his head. He thought for a moment and resisted the urge to object. Everything was because she was still young. He couldn't let her carry a small piggy bank back. It was snowing outside. There wasn't a single person there. Anyway, it was just one night. Tomorrow he would tell his grandfather. He didn't need any little friends. "I'll get the butler to prepare a small guest room for our adorable Gio," Old Masterin said as he looked towards the door. Bo Gio shook her head. She was very serious. "Don't trouble Grandpa. Momo and I will sleep in the same room. We are both girls and there is a small sofa here." When Chin Mo heard this, he started to frown. That little face of his turned cold. What did she mean by both of them were girls? This idiot, couldn't she see clearly? Old Masterin couldn't help but smile. This was the first time he saw his grandson show so many expressions on the same day. Suddenly he felt that this wasn't bad. His grandson had never slept in the same room with anyone before. He could give it a try. "Okay." Old Masterin caressed the little tiger's head. "Then you can squeeze with Mo." Chin Mo didn't expect his grandfather to say this. He was about to reject. But just then, someone hugged his waist. Then the little tiger smiled. 2 little tiger teeth were revealed. The mole at the corner of her eyes was at the corner of her eyes. She looked at him with big eyes. Then, Chapter 1408. The little Chin Mo froze. When the side of his face touched the softness, he even forgot to push the little tiger away. His nose was filled with the scent of milk and candy. His eyes slowly widened. He didn't seem to want to accept this scene. But he couldn't stop it. His fingers froze. Old Masterin froze when he saw his grandson's expression. Then he couldn't help but laugh. The little tiger was really daring, kissing him as soon as she came up. Speaking of which, this was the first time his grandson was kissed. It didn't count when he was born. But after he could remember, he hadn't been kissed by anyone else. After all, when they were in the courtyard, children of the same age felt that his grandson was too mature. He wouldn't do such an intimate action. After all, his grandson had been a clean freak since he was young. However, when Grandpa saw his grandson's shocked expression, he couldn't help but smile uncontrollably. The little tiger didn't know what she had done. She reached forward with her claws and hooked Chin Mo's ears. "Momo, are you shy because I kissed you? Is that why your ears are so red? Don't be shy, we still have to sleep together later." Chin Mo didn't think much of it at first, but when she touched him, he realized that they were too close. He reached out and tugged her tail, his voice cold. "Who wants to sleep with you?" It was fine if this little tiger didn't know whether it was a man or a woman, but she kissed anyone she saw. Didn't she know what it meant to be reserved? Bo Gio blinked in confusion. Her little face started to sink, even her tiger ears drooped. "If you don't welcome me, I'll go back and sleep. I'll look for you tomorrow." At first, Chin Mo didn't say anything. He watched as she hugged the piggy bank. Then he looked at the falling snow and the dark night. Chin Mo tilted his face. "I won't go back on my promise. Since grandfather said you can stay, you can stay." "Really?" Bo Gio's ears perked up again. She almost shook her tiger tail. "You promised to sleep with me." Once again, Chin Mo told himself that everything was because she was still young. "You'll sleep on the sofa and I'll sleep on the bed. We have no intention of sleeping together." Chin Mo corrected the little tiger who had only been here for 6 hours and had already messed up his rhythm of life. Don't talk nonsense and stay away from me. Maintain a 1-meter distance. 1 meter? Bojio placed the piggy bank down and gestured. She pouted, looking slightly listless. So far? I can't even touch you. Chin Mo smirked. At such a young age, he had already developed his aura. Before asking me why, shouldn't you look at your own behavior first? Behavior? Little Bojio didn't understand. After thinking for a long time, she asked shyly, is it because I'm too strong? Chin Mo didn't want to speak. What did this have to do with strength? I know. The fairy tales say that princesses are all made of water. When I hug you in the future, I'll use less strength. After all, you're so small and weak. Who knows, I might hurt you. Little Bojio was rather serious when she said this. She even reflected on her actions in annoyance. She didn't know that at this moment, Chin Mo only had one thought in his mind. He wanted to pick her up and throw her out of the window. Princesses are all made of water? Small? Chin Mo reached out and pinched her claws. He inhaled deeply. You better shut up now. Bojio heard this and replied happily, okay. Because of the word good, Chin Mo couldn't even finish his sentence. The mixed-blood handsome face with the aura of an angel turned even darker. He was still cold and dignified, but there was anger. Old Master N, who had been observing the interaction between the two little people, was really amused. He felt that this trip abroad was probably the right choice. After all, who would have imagined that his grandson would say so many words and make so many expressions in a day? He even suffered because of a little child. He was enduring something all the time, probably because the little tiger was too young. His grandson wouldn't be so calculative when compared to his younger self. But this wasn't entirely right. After all, when he was over there were people younger than him. They had seen him like this before. Perhaps it was because the little tiger in front of him hugged him too passionately. Even though he was watching from the side, he felt that he couldn't push away that kind of hug. It seemed like his grandson had met a little devil. Fortunately, the little devil was very obedient. She hugged her little piggy bank and followed behind his grandson. She didn't say anything when he told her not to. She even passed a glass of water to his grandson. She used her actions to express that she would take good care of him. Don't ask Old Master and why he felt this way. It was because this was the expression the little tiger gave people. Why was it so cute? He really wanted to reach out and rub it. Especially the way she looked at his grandson with her big eyes. If he was his grandson, he would have rubbed it long ago. His grandson was good. He really made the little tiger stay away from him. Then she turned to look at him. Old Master and couldn't help but laugh. He knew that his grandson was saying, "Grandfather, when are you going to watch the show?" He held the dragon head walking stick and shook it. "Grandfather has something to do. If you want to eat supper, let the butler cook for you. There is warm milk outside and a lot of snacks." Okay. After all, he hadn't grown up yet. He still had an obedient side. The little Chin Mo took a step forward and said to Old Master and, "Grandfather, good night." Old Master and wanted to continue watching, but considering his grandson's intelligence, he decided to let the two little people develop freely. But looking at his grandson, he seemed to only want to tolerate the little tiger for one night. Bojio followed Chin Mo to bid good night to Old Masterin. Unlike the other girls who were soft and cute, she was a little fierce. "Momo, I didn't do it on purpose. Actually, it's good that you're short. It's okay for a girl to be short since you're so cute and pretty. But if you really want to grow taller, you can drink more milk. I'll give my cup to you as well." Grandpa nodded. "Momo, you're so cute and pretty. But if you really want to grow taller, you can drink more milk. I'll give my cup to you." "It's fine." Chin Mo didn't control his strength again, snapping his favorite mimosa plant. Bojio lowered her head and looked at her toes, not knowing what to do. Chin Mo inhaled deeply. After taking the glass of milk, he instantly felt a headache. Why did he have to worry about the little tiger when he was treated as a girl? If he was too cold, the little tiger would feel hurt. It was probably because her face was too deceiving. With this thought, Chi-Nemo finished the milk and reached out to pinch her face. He didn't use much strength because the feeling was out of his expectations. It was tender and smooth like egg pudding. It was too soft and he couldn't bear to touch it. Chi-Nemo tilted his head and retracted his hand. Forget it, it wasn't enough for one night anyway. Bo-Gyo watched as her little princess walked into the bathroom. Before leaving, the little princess touched her face. It must be because she was too likable. Even the little princess couldn't help but feel itchy. With this thought, little Bo-Gyo started to plan seriously how to make the little princess like her more. After all, it was too difficult to bring her home. The little princess was too troublesome. And she was easily shy. Bo-Gyo tilted her eyes. Her dad had never told her what to do if the other party was too shy. Chi-Nemo, who was about to wash up, didn't know what the little tiger was thinking. After closing the door, he looked at himself in the mirror. His hands seemed to still feel the touch just now. Also, what was with the milk smell all over his body? It must be because she carried him out. Chi-Nemo squeezed out the toothpaste. His cold little face had a different expression again. The little tiger was a little bored waiting outside. In addition, she suddenly thought of a good way to quickly improve her relationship with the little princess. She bent down and placed the piggy bank on the sofa. Then, she ran to the drawer and took out a small scarf. In fact, when she saw this, Bo-Gyo sighed. The little princess was really clean. He was completely different from her. Her scarves had never been folded so neatly before. She just threw it casually. Because of this, her dad always made her reflect on herself. In the past, little Bo-Gyo always felt that her dad was deliberately looking for trouble. After all, that person always lost to her in rock, paper, scissors. William, who lived next door, was even more casual than her. Now, it seemed that she was too ignorant. Everything in the little princess's house was square and fragrant. There were also many books. Little Bo-Gyo compared and looked at herself. She felt that she was full of flaws. But she didn't intend to change. However, she had to pay more attention to her hygiene in the future. If not, the little princess would throw her out like trash. After little Bo-Gyo told herself this, she started to struggle with her little tiger pajamas. This set of pajamas was originally bought by her dad. He was in charge of acting cute for her mom. The claws, ears, and tail all needed help when she put on the pajamas. It took a lot of effort to take it off. A normal 5-year-old wouldn't be able to take it off. But we must believe that our little tiger Lord Gyo is different. If she couldn't do it manually, she would use the rolling technique. She gritted her teeth and pulled, nimbly and handsomely escaping. She took the little scarf and prepared to give the little princess a surprise in the bathroom. Since they were going to sleep together. Of course, they had to shower together. That way, their intimacy would increase continuously. Bo-Gyo felt that she was too smart to think of such an idea. Before she entered, she didn't forget to give herself a thumbs up in the mirror. The little young Master Chin, who had already taken off his clothes, didn't notice the little tiger's thoughts outside the door. He thought that she was starting to doze off again since she didn't make a sound. He sat in the small bathtub that his grandfather had specially made for him. After lying down, he covered his forehead with a towel. His black hair was a little wet, making his red lips and white teeth appear even more prominent. Even his eyes were watery. No wonder little Bo-Gyo treated young Master Chi-Nemo as a girl. This appearance was really enough to put the moon and flowers to shame. This was probably related to Chi-Nemo's natural noble and immortal aura. But at this moment he could still see that he was a boy. But he was still brought up since young. Not only did he do everything himself, but he was also very presentable. He reached out to get some shower gel. Just as he was about to apply it on his arms, the door opened with a creak. Little tiger, no, that's not right, he shouldn't call her little tiger anymore. Because that person wasn't wearing her pajamas. She was wearing a little white scarf and walking towards him. Chi-Nemo suddenly had a very bad feeling. He looked at the little person who shouldn't be here, his little brows furrowing bit by bit. Suddenly, Chi-Nemo had a very bad feeling. He looked at the little person who shouldn't be here, his little brows furrowing bit by bit. Momo, let's take a bath together. I'll help you wash up. Bo took off her scarf. She was wearing a pair of tiger underpants, her snow-white body like a ball. She was about to enter the bathtub. Mo's upbringing had taught him that there was a difference between men and women since he could remember. His IQ was twice that of his peers, not to mention his psychological state. Being precocious didn't just mean that he was out of line with his peers, it also meant that he had never been so close to anyone before. Now that someone was about to enter, his entire body froze once again. Don't come in. In a moment of desperation, Mo could only throw out this sentence. Bo looked at his red ears, a look of realization on her face. She then said considerately, Momo, you're shy again. Didn't I say just now that we're both girls? Even though I'm taller than you and my hair is shorter than yours, I'm really a girl. If you don't believe me, come closer, you can take a closer look. Little old tiger. Mo looked at the leg that wasn't retracting. Instead, it was moving closer. He completely regretted his soft-heartedness just now. Bo didn't realize this and corrected him seriously. Momo, I'm not called Little Tiger, I'm called Bo. Bo as in Bojo and Gio as in Bojo. It's very handsome. In such a situation, it was hard to remember a person's name. Mo's breath was slightly suppressed. Bo, little Gio, try to come closer. I won't go closer. I'll just sit beside you. As for you, Momo, if you continue to hide, your neck will be submerged and you will drink dirty water. There are too many bubbles in the water and your stomach will hurt. Actually, you don't have to be so reserved. I know you aren't used to it after coming overseas. My dad said that people in our country are very reserved. Actually, I'm the same. He really couldn't tell how the person in front of him was reserved. Fortunately, there was milk in the tub. Otherwise, she would have seen everything about him. Mo told himself not to be calculative with an idiot. Chapter 1409. Once again, Mo froze. This time, both his hands and legs froze. He had never seen such an expression on his face before. However, the one who had done the deed didn't seem to care. She leaned back and splashed the water in the bathtub on herself. Her fair and tender little face was slightly red from the steam. She looked soft and satisfied. Momo, the water in your bathtub smells so good. Is it because you put milk in it? No wonder you're so white. It's because of the milk bath. Princesses are different. It's comfortable to take a bath like this, right? Mo suppressed the urge to ask her what she meant by being a princess. He just wanted to stay away from her. It was best if they didn't have any more contact. Bo could see his resistance. She didn't understand. Momo, there has to be a limit to your shyness. I'm already so far away from you. You'll fall if you take another step back. With that, she started to move. Mo opened his mouth. Even though his voice wasn't as threatening as when he grew up, it was still a warning. Don't come over. Bo raised her hands. Her meaning was clear. She would listen to whatever he said. Don't be so resistant. Mo's current state of mind was obvious. He took a step back. He shouldn't have been soft-hearted towards this little tiger. If he was given another chance, he would definitely throw her out. He wouldn't care if her house was dark or not. Bo didn't know what the pet she wanted to bring home was thinking. Anyway, she just had to think of a way to increase their intimacy. Bo tilted her head. She thought about it seriously and smiled sweetly. Momo, let me help you wipe your back. I'm good at it. It's fine, Mo rejected in the next second. This was the first time Bo met such an unapproachable little kid. Sigh, he was pretty, Bo told herself. She splashed some water on herself. That wasn't all. In order to make herself look as clean as the little princess, she turned her body and placed some shower gel in her palms. Children of this age wouldn't even bathe themselves very neatly. Bo was the same. She was slightly clumsy. She wiped her arms and legs as though she had completed a great project. From start to end, Mo could only watch from the side. Furthermore, he was using his peripheral vision in order to avoid seeing things that they shouldn't see. He had already intentionally shifted his gaze elsewhere. Now, the little tiger had settled down. But he couldn't stay here forever. Chi Nemo couldn't get up. Once he did, he would be in an awkward situation. No matter how mature young Master Chin was, he was still a child. In this aspect he cared a lot. However, there was one thing about young Master Chin. He was raised from a young age. No matter what kind of situation they were in, he was able to maintain his nobility and was not anxious or impatient. It seemed like he could only wait for this stupid little tiger to finish bathing before he could get up and go out. This was the only solution he could think of. Otherwise, he couldn't just stand up and let everyone see his naked body. However, he was really an idiot. At this point, she couldn't even tell if he was a man or a woman. He only knew how to play with water. Chapter 14:10. Momo, I'm done. You should be done too, right? Little Bo Gio twisted the scarf in her hand. Do you want me to wipe your hair before we head out together? Chi Nemo took a deep breath. He knew that she wouldn't be content with her actions. No need. You can leave first. Bo Gio glanced over at his face, which was already covered in a thin layer of sweat due to the heat. At this moment, Chi Nemo was extremely good-looking. Her thin lips were like flower petals. Her facial features were as delicate as a doll's. Her black hair was also wet from the water and stuck softly to the back of her ears. Bo Gio's heart itched. He really wanted to hug her. No, he had to restrain himself. It would be bad if he scared the little princess. However, the little princess did not seem to be in the right state. He looked as if he was about to faint from the heat. Bo Gio was smart. Once she realized this, she took a huge step forward. Chi Nemo also noticed that he had stayed in the bathtub for too long. His breathing was unstable, but he wasn't so weak that he would faint. But Bo Gio didn't think so. Her heart ached for her pet. Momo, are you out of breath now? The last time I went to the snow mountain with my dad to soak in the hot spring, I was also like this. Don't be afraid, I'll carry you out now. Carry him out? How could Chi Nemo agree? When Bo Gio saw the little princess's expression, she knew that he was going to be shy again. This time, he didn't even give her a chance to reject. With a ferocious movement, he directly picked up the seemingly weak young Master Chin from the bathtub. Water splashed everywhere. At that moment, Chi Nemo's eyes widened. He had really underestimated the little tiger's ability to cause trouble. Bo Gio wanted to show off her strength as a boyfriend. After all, in order to gain the little princess's trust, she had to straighten her back and carry him out. However, the moment she picked Momo up, Momo's expression changed. She seemed to have seen something she shouldn't have. That looks like Bo Gio was in a daze. She looked at the person in her arms, then at his face, and then back at herself. He suddenly understood something. Her little brain suddenly had an epiphany. There was another splash of water. Bo Gio released him. The two people returned to the bathtub. Chi Nemo's face was full of water. Bo Gio was the same. However, the latter was rather guilty. He looked around with his round tiger eyes. Momo, do you believe me? This is all a misunderstanding. From the beginning to the end, it was all a misunderstanding. Chi Nemo didn't want to talk at all. His little face was so cold that he looked like a little prince. Bo Gio raised her right hand, lying through her teeth. I didn't see anything. Chi Nemo smirked. Didn't I see your hand slip? This was not easy to explain. Even if the 5-year-old little Bo Gio was full of tricks, she couldn't bring herself to play tricks on him after seeing him naked. However, who would have thought that such a beautiful little princess would be a man? How could it be a man? Bo Gio felt indignant. His small body moved towards the other side. He sensed her intentions. Chi Nemo narrowed his eyes and warned, Little Bo Gio. I just wanted to confirm. Little Bo Gio touched the back of her head, looking rather embarrassed. You still want to confirm such things? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.